All right, we're going to open up the January 17th meeting. I'll have the call to order. Invocation will be by Brad Lomneck, Pledge of Allegiance by the mayor. Then we'll have roll call. Everybody please stand.
Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, thank you for tonight, Lord, as these council people do work in the city, Lord. Please bless our first responders. Please bless all of our citizens, Lord, in Jesus' name.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Brenson?
Here.
Commissioner Wilson?
Here.
Mayor Johnson?
here.
Commissioner Firstner?
Here.
Commissioner Oliver?
Here.
All right, we have no presentations or proclamations. Staff report. All right, under public
I
comments.
have nothing this evening, Mayor.
Huh?
Nothing.
I'm sorry. All right, under public comments, I have one here from the, I'm gonna go ahead and let it be, they have some other stuff going on. The Woman's Club, Kathy Seals. All of you want to come up or just come on up and let us see you?
Feels so good to be back in City Hall. On behalf of the Women's Club, first of all, I'd like to wish everyone a very happy, healthy, prosperous new year for everybody as well as our city. Tonight I have with us some of our members from the Women's Club, Trish Forges, Cheryl Applegate, Sue Lowry, and Michelle Cummings. We're here once again to ask approval to host a political forum for the upcoming March 14th election. The Women's Club of Ocoee has been hosting these political forums for more than 30 years. I'm not even that old. This year, we're requesting two dates. Wednesday, February the 15th from 6 to 8 for District 1 and District 3 Commission candidates, and Thursday, February 16th from 6 to 8 for the mayoral candidates. As in the past, we're requesting the city to televise and live stream the political forum so we can accept questions from Ocoee citizens via emails and telephone calls, as well as from the chamber. We respectfully ask your approval of our request for this year's political forum. Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Thank you. Appreciate it very much. How long y'all been doing that now?
Well over 30 years. We used to do them in the Women's Club.
We appreciate it very much. I know the citizens do too. Thank you. We need a motion on it?
Consensus.
We need a consensus. Everybody okay with
Yeah.
what we heard?
That
Everybody?
Yep.
All right.
okay for me? Okay.
Everything's good.
Thank you for your time. Y'all have
Yep.
a great evening.
Thank you. All right, I have a couple more, but they'll be at the end, and then I have a couple that's about the issues on the agenda, so we'll get to those. All right, going to consent agenda. You hear a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Wilson to approve. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Firstner.
I'd like to pull an item.
All right, motion made and seconded. So what item do you want pulled?
15. Item 15.
Item 15. All right. All right. All right, we can approve everything from 1 through 14 and then 16, and then we'll listen to 15. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion to approve 1 through 14 and item 16.
Motion made by Commissioner Wilson. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Firstner. Any more comments? No more comments? Let's vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right, Commissioner Oliver.
On this particular item, this is an item to approve demolition of construction or demolition of the old City Hall building located at 150 North Lakeshore Drive. Looking at this particular item on here, it states that there is about a cost of about $82,000 for the demolition of this item here. My question is more of a question as to the funding to do this. I know we have funds. I just want to make sure they were allocated and also where those funds were coming from.
Commissioner, the funds will be coming from a road project that we have right now in order to and we'll bring it back to replenish those funds at the mid-year adjustment.
Which road project?
There's some money set aside for some downtown city streets, $250,000 for the non-master plan streets that we had planned on in the future, building up a reserve so that we can resurface the old brick roads here where we have Magnolia, Lafayette, the rest of Lake Shore, the streets right around here immediately to the south of City Hall.
So we're going to pull funds from road projects to complete this particular project?
Correct.
Okay,
And then replenish it at mid-year.
okay. As I recall, during our budget workshops, there was a lot of conversation about sidewalks and roads, and now here we're pulling funds from projects that are much needed, road projects that are much needed, and now we want to move it to the demolition as opposed to finding funds from somewhere else. I just don't like the idea of moving funds from roads or sidewalks, street repairs, those kind of things, to do something else beyond what we decided. We sat it for hours, literally debating about moving money and funding projects, and now we want to do this, and I don't understand why.
I think, Commissioner, that's why Mr. Krug said in your yearly mid-year budget amendment, you can replenish those funds. We originally thought that we could use the bond proceeds for City Hall to demolish the old City Hall, but we got, from the bond council, got a clarification that we cannot do that. So until we can get to the budget in April, the mid-year budget amendment, we had to come up with some way to fund it right now, and we can put that $82,000 back in April.
But can't we be paving those streets right now as well?
Well, that's going through. It's not affecting the repaving or the sidewalks. Those are, one of those contracts was already cut, and you're going to see the sidewalks starting at the end of this month, and in early March is when the paving starts. Those are unaffected.
Okay, but it sounds to me that, again, when we start moving funds for things that we need, those funds could be used for something that we need right now.
Yeah, we have to take the money from somewhere, and we try to find something that's not going to impact us too much. In this case, it's a 3-month delay in getting ahead with and moving ahead with those projects. But, unfortunately, we, in the abundance of caution, when we spoke with the bond council, they were very clear we could not use the leftover funds for building City Hall to demolish the old City Hall. That would be a violation of the bond covenants, so we had to find another way to get rid of it. Our insurance company wants us to get rid of it as soon as possible. They think it's a nuisance, it's an attractive nuisance over there, and we expect our insurance, our building insurance to go down significantly once we knock that down also. So we want to get that done as soon as possible.
I understand that, but I also understand that we've set aside money for our fire department. I don't know how far we are on that. That's underway. I know that the money that we set aside for that new fire station is more than enough to cover the fire station. We have overage from that. We have another project for the firing range that has not yet begun, or no design or anything like that. Is there any way that we can start looking at moving funds from those projects as opposed to something that we can use right now to start paving roads? And case in point is, I had a citizen talk to me about the road as Silver Star ends, and that road there, the potholes in that road, and maybe resurfacing that street, trying to get back over to the.
It's not affecting the paving, Commissioner. The paving is whole. Steve, what was exactly the
The
project that you took the
$200,000 is
$82,000?
for the design of the downtown, these roads just to the south of City Hall here. It was for the future to start setting money aside that as we complete everything in front of City Hall and all the streets around it, we can move on to the other streets.
So just to clarify, the money is coming from a design project, a road design project. We don't have any funds for actual construction for those roads yet budgeted. So that'll be a 2 to 3 month delay in the design of some of those, and we don't even know where that money's going to be coming from. So it made sense, if we were going to take that money from one account, to take it from that account for now. That could best absorb a 2 or 3 month delay.
Okay, I understand. It still just does not.
Paving's whole,
It still
though.
doesn't give me
That's moving
clarification, and
forward.
and it still gives me pause when I hear that we're moving money from roads, any road project, whether it's design or whether it is actually paving, resurfacing. Whenever we start moving money from those type of projects, it's just, my red flags go up, and that's just a red flag for me, moving money from that. But that's fine. I don't agree with it, so I'm not really going to vote on this, but I don't agree with it for those reasons. Thank you.
Well, I disagree at this point because that's for a design. Last meeting, I believe we already approved the sidewalk.
Yes, the sidewalk's been approved,
That's-
purchase orders issued, and they're mobilizing, getting a schedule together with concrete so they can start. Because once they start, they got to keep going.
And it's not uncommon for us to do things in April at a midterm budget review.
No, and we are not at a point with purchasing and everything to move forward on these projects. It was money set aside for future so we can start making sure we have plans to continue the development of downtown.
Is not the payment on schedule for the ones that are supposed to be done already in the budget? That's
Correct.
already in there, right?
Yes, Mayor.
Yeah, so we're not affecting any of that.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll make
Need a
the-
motion.
I'll make the motion to approve item 15.
Motion made by Commissioner Wilson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Forstner. Let's vote. Motion carries with Commissioner Oliver, no. All right. Read first ordinance, none. Second reading of ordinance is public hearing. Second reading of ordinance for Howard property, 8708 A.D. Mims Road, annexation and rezoning project. Zoning manager Whitfield. You got something to read? I do.
What page? Melanie, before she starts, could you tell, by pages, where we start with, I mean, I read the agenda, but what page are we going to on the agenda of the new system? Can you tell instead of scrolling all the way up and down? Does it go, can we do item?
Oh, yes, you can, however, comma, you're in the,
I'm in the packet.
You are in, did you download the portal?
Where I came
Go
from.
here, packet, go here, and then go here.
Okay, thank you. Gotta read it going all the way down. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Good evening.
Sorry.
There you go.
Okay, this project is the 8708 80 Mims Road, the Howard property for annexation and rezoning. The property is located on the south side of 80 Mims Road. It's approximately 160 feet west of Prairie Lake Boulevard. It's 2.25 acres in size. It currently has an Orange County A1 zoning classification. The proposed use will be a single-family subdivision. It's adjacent to the city's boundaries along a portion of its north side, and is eligible for annexation. This is an aerial of the property, the surrounding zoning districts, and you'll see the yellow in the north is what connects the property to the city's jurisdictional limits. This is the surrounding future land use, it's all low-density residential. In terms of its eligibility for annexation, it's contiguous to the city, it's within the JPA, it's consistent with the JPA in terms of proposed use. It helps to reduce an existing enclave, and it's a logical extension of the city's jurisdictional limits, and also for water services. The DRC and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the annexation and rezoning with no conditions, and staff is recommending that the City Commission approve the requested annexation and rezoning from County A1 to City R1 AA, which is consistent with the surrounding zoning districts in this area for the property located 8708 80 Mims Road. And the applicant team is here. Thank you. That's it.
You want to read that?
let's do the public hearing first.
I'm going to open the public hearing. Anybody with the applicant want to speak, now's the time. If not, You don't have to, you don't have to.
Can everybody hear me? Okay, just making sure. Well, thank you guys for this opportunity, and thank you for attending and being privy to what we're trying to do here. Essentially, we're wanting to install 9 single-family homes within the lot as she described. But basically, just trying to revitalize Ocoee and just make it more family-oriented and just kind of bring more people to this great city that we live in. I'm the engineer that's going to be on the project. My name is Robert Renee, and I'm the owner of Cronova Designs LLC. And so I'm going to be working with Winston and Leroy, and we're going to be working to build some nice, beautiful homes. So.
All right. Anybody have any questions? Commissioners? No questions? No.
Okay. Thank you guys for your time.
I will make a comment on that lot. That was originally the Stroh-Schneiders, who was the Boy Scout leader, and then his son was our fire chief, and then it was the Hollands. And Mr. Holland had it, and he's one of the guys that laid out most of the streets in the city of Ocoee back years and years ago.
Nice.
It's a good piece of property.
Yeah.
Welcome
good.
aboard.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's some good history. We'll do you guys proud.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Any public hearings open? Anybody in the audience, any citizen want to make a comment? Come to the podium. Did you fill out a form?
Yes.
Okay. Is it up here?
Yeah, I put it on the corner.
Oh, I don't
Mayor,
have it.
she wants to speak, she's speaking at the later public comment. This is public hearing regarding this case.
Oh,
Thanks, Mike. No, I'm actually about the development that's in it.
all right. So anybody else in the public want to speak? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the dais. I hear a motion or any comments?
Let me go ahead and read
All
the
right,
title.
Let him read.
We have, tonight we'll be approving the annexation ordinance, and that ordinance is an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, annexing into the corporate limits of the City of Ocoee, Florida, certain real properties containing approximately 2.25 acres located on the south side of 80 Mims Road, beginning approximately 160 feet west of Prairie Lake Boulevard, finding said annexation to be consistent with the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan, the Ocoee City Code, and the Joint Planning Area Agreement, providing for and authorizing the updating of official city maps, providing direction to the city clerk, providing for severability, repealing inconsistent ordinances, providing for an effective date. And the rezoning ordinance is an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, changing the zoning classification from Orange County A1, Citrus Rural District, to City of Ocoee R1 AA, Single Family Dwelling District on certain real property containing approximately 2.25 acres located on the south side of 80 Mims Road, beginning approximately 160 feet west of Prairie Lake Boulevard, finding such zoning to be consistent with the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan, providing for and authorizing the revision of the official city zoning map, repealing inconsistent ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. All right. All right, commissioners, any comments? If not, I need a motion.
We need
I
a,
have just a quick question regarding the property and its location. Would that be on city sewage, city water and sewage? Would that property
City
be?
water, and then septic.
It'll be on septic?
Yes, sir.
So the 9 homes that will be built there will be on septic tank. Is there, what would be the future plans to get them moved to city water, sewage, as well as maybe reclaim?
The closest manhole is a little over, I want to say 1,800 feet away. So because they're not within a quarter mile, they're not required to connect to septic. The 9 homes is what would be allowed if they were able to develop at the max. The number of units or lots that'll be developed really depends on the engineering when it comes in.
Gotcha. What would be the average lot size per home?
About a quarter acre.
About a quarter acre? All right. Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
All right, thank you. Now, if they wanted to, they could go in the 1,800 feet. Right. You don't really want to run the 1,800 feet. Oh, no.
I mean, we can.
Can you go to the podium?
That's all right. I just asked him. Yeah. That's all right. That was my fault. All right, okay, yeah.
Anach did a fine job. She's absolutely right. We do have another subdivision to the west, to the east, I'm sorry, going in. But it's a matter of the type of flow, gravity, and to get the sewer there. It might not be feasible to physically do it. So when they started this process, we knew there was another subdivision. We're working both, and that could be a possibility. But if not, it could be on septic until such time as sewer is available. It's really close to the end of A.D. Mims Road, so it doesn't make sense to run a pipe all the way down to the city limits to have large acreage lots connecting. But it's also a matter of flow. Is it gravity or is it force main? If it's a gravity, you can't gravity that way. It would get too deep. So we are working at it, though.
What would a cost of that look like? What would
I'm
that
I'm
look
not
like?
a linear foot. It depends if it's force main or gravity and the size. Who else would be picked up on it? I do not know that
Let's
cost.
just say it was force main. What would ballpark?
I'm not. He's an engineer.
come up.
Let him.
Hello. That is a really tough question to answer. My background is in cost engineering, actually, and I have 13 years of cost engineering experience. With the current economy the way it is now, with inflation, material prices being 30% higher than it was the previous past 2 years, when typically it's 3% per year, it's really difficult to kind of estimate that. To ballpark would be like impossible to do. But factors that will be involved is not only the material for the pipe itself, whether it's gravity or force main, but also the pump station, AKA lift station, that's going to be installed, or that would need to be installed to actually push that through. And so that would involve getting vendor quotes from different pump station manufacturers or vendors in the area. And so, it's really tough to tell, but it's not going to be a cheap thing. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
The average septic tank, what's the average lifespan of a septic tank these days? I know we have technology and again, as opposed to what we might have had 20 or 30 years ago versus what we have today, what is the average lifespan of a septic tank under today's specs?
Well, I can pull out my engineering book that I took. I got my professional engineering license. But these are really good questions that you have. As far as the lifespan, I don't know it off the bat. I know that a lot of material, when it comes to metals, it could be like 25 to 50 years, just depending. With the type of sewage that's going to be flowing through these pipes, it could be less, but don't quote me on that. But I can get you that answer later on if that's okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You got, we have two items. One will be the
We have the vote on the annexation ordinance.
annexation and the zoning.
Yep.
Rezoning. All right, first, we're going to do the annexation. I need a motion for annexation.
Is that for 17?
17.
I make a motion to annex property at the Howard property at 8708 80 Mims Road.
Do you hear a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Wilson. Any more comments? No more comments, let's vote. Motion carries unanimously. Now I need a motion for rezoning.
I'll also make that motion for rezoning of the same property at 8708 80 Mims Road.
Do you hear a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Wilson. Let's vote. Motion carries unanimously. Welcome aboard. Thank you. All right, second reading of ordinances for a substantial amendment to the Ocoee Town Shops PUD for a Wawa gas station. Development Services Director, Rumor.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to handle that one.
Huh?
I'm going to be doing that one, too.
She's doing that.
She's going to do it.
Yeah,
That's what Phil's doing.
they put the wrong name on here, sorry.
So a substantial amendment to the Ocoee Town Shops PUD. This will be the second substantial amendment.
That's right.
So should the city commission approve a substantial amendment to the Ocoee Town Shops PUD to amend the land use plan to allow a gas station use in the PUD. The property is in the northwest corner of Clark and 50. It's about 3.39 acres in size, and the proposed use is a gas station. The aerial shows that it's vacant. It's surrounded by C2 zoning districts. So this shows the 2019 substantial amendment where the square footage reduced in order to allow some square footage for restaurant use. The original PUD was done about 10 or so years ago. Also, it originally started with a mixture of uses, restaurants, retail, commercial type uses. What the 2019 amendment did was reduce the square footage and then added I want to say it was restaurant use, but it reduced the square footage and then I don't think it moved any buildings around. But essentially, this amendment will keep the same types of uses in the C2 district that was allowed back in 2019. But what this amendment would do is add a gas station use. The gas station is about 5,600 square feet in size. Part of the amendment would also include a future development area of about 4,600 square feet. In terms of access, there'll be 4 full access points. What's not shown here is a secondary access point of Matthew Paris, about 500 feet north of this driveway right here. The Matthew Paris is about 500 feet north of this. So the site will be accessed by 4 different locations. The access on Clark is a full access. So it's interesting that the pond is here because you won't be able to really see the pond because of the State Road 50 and the elevation and the grade. So because of the city's requirements for landscaping, you'll just sort of see the building and the elevations and the trees, but not so much the parking and the gas station canopy and things like that. So in this rendering, 50 is here. There's a grade change that goes upward, then the landscaping, and then the pond is here. This is an elevation of the Wawa. It's your typical Wawa. This is the gas station and canopies. The DRC met on November 1st. The Planning and Zoning Commission met on November 8th. At the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, there was discussion on the access and traffic circulation from Clark Road. There was a lot of discussion on the use of Jacob Nathan and Matthew Paris. So what came out of the PZC hearing was a condition to add, at the time of site plan review, a note in the plan and also in the design of the site, a limitation on access. So they will utilize at FDOT index standard signage and pavement markings to not allow any blockage of the Clark Road access driveway. So with that, staff is recommending that the City Commission approve the requested substantial amendment, and the applicant team is here with any questions as well.
All right, I'm going to open up the public hearing for item number 18 for the substantial amendment for the Ocoee Town Shops. The applicants here.
Hello, I'm Sean Forty. I'm with KCG Engineering, the civil engineers on the project, 1700 North Orange Avenue in Orlando. And we do a lot of the Wawa. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. So
Is that mic on?
Yeah.
Green light on?
It's on.
it's on. I could
Okay, all right.
I could restate it if you need me to.
All right. All right, does anybody have any questions?
Up here?
No, anywhere.
Yeah, I do have a question. And it's in regards to the pond.
Mhm.
We can go back to that slide. I'm looking at that tree, and the tree seems to be on a slight elevated hill. But
It
when
will
it
be on the hill.
rains, it looks like the rain is going to be headed back towards the street. How will that be mitigated?
So Right now, the entire property grades towards the street from north to south towards 50. This is the lowest spot on the property, hence why we put the pond here. There will be a tie-in slope from the top of that wall to 50, but it won't really be any steeper than what's there currently. So there will be some drainage from the ground, but a substantial less amount than what is present today.
Okay, and obviously, the basis of my question is because we live in Florida. And when it rains, it rains.
Right.
It doesn't sprinkle, right?
Right.
We kind of used to downpours. And my concern is, what is that going to do to the land, the foliage,
Right.
landscaping, the sidewalk, yada, 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 on and on and on. So that's a concern of mine, because the pond, which is great that it's going to be out of sight, but the water is going down that little elevation, which I don't know how long that is.
Yeah, can you go back to the plan view, maybe? Yeah, that. So right now in the existing condition, everything to the right of this slide drains towards State Road 50. All of it does. So we are taking all that water and putting it into the retention area, and then you'll be left with that small strip left between the retention area and State Road 50. So it'll actually be less water going to that. And the retention area, because of the basin we are in St. John's, will have to retain a pretty substantial storm event with zero discharge. So,
Okay.
and DOT's requirements too are that we have to hold, it's an entire matrix of storms we have to model to show no more water going to that road, not just flow, but volume.
Right.
Yeah, Commissioner Brinson, very good question. We have a very similar pond on 50 already in front of the Michaels Shopping Center. There's a pond and then the same setup. So we thought of that, having the pond that close to the road and that space between the wall, the bank of the pond. But they do have to get not only us St. John's, but they have to get a DOT drainage to show that no more water would go there. That already does. But when you're out there, you're going to see landscape beds, grass, a sidewalk, curb, road. So it won't just sheet flow onto Colonial and Craw.
Right, because I'm concerned about flooding of that
Right.
street, or
And-
pooling of water.
Right, and one other thing to note, that cross-section was exaggerated in the vertical direction, because if I draw everything the same, for some reason, reality, you can see hills, but on our plan sheets, it looks really flat. So we exaggerate the differences.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else from the audience before I ask for the rest of the commissioners? No comments. So I'm going to close it and bring it back to the, well, okay, sorry.
Hi, Sue Laurie from Rose Hill Subdivision. My question is, the main entrance off of Clark Road, is that going to be in front of the DeGespy Funeral Home?
Sorry. There is a driveway cut here already, so they're just going to use that. And I believe when I visited the site, it's directly across from this shopping plaza right here.
Oh, okay. So you're going to be able to turn left going north on Clark Road? You'll be able to turn left across the other 2 lanes of traffic?
Yes, it's a full access now, so it'll stay a full access with this project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, once again, I'm going to bring it up to the dais. Anybody else have any comments?
I do have a question. What is the footprint of that parcel of land? The entire parcel, what is the footprint of that?
It is 3.39 acres.
3.3 acres, okay. This particular Wawa, I know Wawa comes in different sizes.
Right.
I guess there's different models. Which model would this be, and how much of a footprint would it be taking up?
Double check. I believe
It's
this is an F85.
5,600 square feet.
It's 50, most of the Wawas are the same, sorry, I'll pull this up. Most of the Wawas are approximately the same square footage, it's just different shapes. Some of them are longer and wider if it's not a very deep parcel. Some of them are deeper and skinnier. And then they have a couple variations on how they do their front doors. I believe this is called this is the F85. This is one of their earlier prototypes that they've modified a little bit throughout the years, but this is one of their most standard ones. And as far as site area, in an ideal, perfect Wawa, I found that they take up about 2 acres. Sometimes on these tighter sites, it comes in a little under 2 acres, but it's the whole project area for a Wawa, fuel tanks, number of parking spaces they want are usually around 2 acres.
Do they all have the same amount of pumps? Does every Wawa have the same amount of pumps?
Their target is usually the stacked 8. That's their most favorite one because a truck with a trailer can park there. They have a straight 8 version, which isn't as ideal because the trailers hang out because there's a lot of vehicles for landscape companies and stuff. And they occasionally do a stacked 10, but I would say of all the projects I do, it's about 1 in 20 is a stacked 10. And then occasionally I've seen a stacked 6, and that's like 1 out of 50. So they prefer to have the stacked 8.
So this would be a stacked 8?
Stacked 8.
So it'd be.
So it's 2 by 4.
So it's 8 pumps, but they're both sides.
So, right, there's 8 pumps, 2 sides, so 16
pumps.
positions, correct.
Positions.
Right.
Okay, I just need to go back to the question that she asked earlier concerning traveling north on Clark Road and being able to make a left turn into the Wawa. Is there any traffic calming devices at that left turn, or is just, would the road be modified with a turn lane there so you can make that left turn heading north?
There's one there.
There's one there?
I believe there's one there.
There's one there already.
At the aerial.
Yep.
Yes, the
there's one
driveway
there.
apron for this parcel is actually already built. And so you can kind of see in that area, but not very well. There's actually a right turn lane already built into this site as well.
Yep, right and left.
And the planning commission, planning and zoning board, one of their concerns was traffic blocking that intersection. And I will say we are further back than most Wawas because the pond pushed us back a little bit. If you go to the one in Winter Garden, it's actually much closer. But with that being said, we were proposing doing the MUTC details to make sure they don't block intersections. We've had that on a few other Wawas that were in busy intersections. So where you basically stripe it out with signage that keeps cars from blocking it. So if it backs up in the morning on Clark, cars can still get in and out of there.
Gotcha. I travel that road every day, and traveling southbound on that road, coming to that intersection, that traffic can get it stacks up pretty quickly right at that light, especially if the timing is off at that light there. It can get really bad. And then now you're going to add another component of adding a left turn into the property while folks are heading, they're heading southbound on the property. So that's just a bit of concern. So hopefully we can come up with something to be able to calm the traffic down going into that entrance.
Right, and there is a left turn there now, but obviously nobody's using it because there's just a vacant parcel, so.
Can I ask another question? This is a simple question. Does Wawa have different color schemes, or is this elevation and colors, is that the
I've not
brand of
seen it in
Wawa?
Central Florida, but I think there's been a few one-offs in the Tampa market, like in the islands in St. Petersburg and those sort of things, but I don't work in that area. I try to stay local, Central Florida, so I haven't seen any variation in colors. I've seen a couple little architectural changes here and there because a city code might have something unique that we can't get around, and they'll add something. But in Northeast, they have a completely different. This was a special one just for Florida when they came down back in 2011 or whatever year it was. But
Okay, thank you.
All right, anybody else?
I'll go ahead and read the title to the ordinance. This is an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, approving a substantial amendment to the land use plan for the Ocoee Town Shops planned unit development for certain real property comprising approximately 3.39 acres and located on the northwest corner of South Clark Road and West Colonial Drive, State Road 50, pursuant to the application submitted by the property owner, amending the Ocoee Town Shops PUD LUP to allow a Wawa gas station use on Lot 1 of the PUD, finding consistency with the commercial future land use map designation of the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan, repealing inconsistent ordinances, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
All right. I need more comments, or I need a motion for the item 18 for substantial amendment to the Ocoee Town Shops, PUD.
I'll make that motion.
That's per staff recommendation.
Per staff recommendation. I need Commissioner Wilson made the motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Brinson. Any more comments?
I do have one comment, and that is concerning the FDOT index for signage. I didn't, is that something you guys are, that's already in place, that you're already starting to work with FDOT about the signage for blocking the roadway for that area?
I'm glad you brought that up, because one correction is actually MUTCD, the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, that DOT had us add on another Wawa. So it's actually not a DOT index, it's a manual of MUTCD index. But I've already sent it to Mike, so he has a copy of it as well, of that index number, that detail. That's a standard, national detail. And, but yes, we've sent that to him.
Okay, I just want to make sure there was a plan actually in place, so.
Right.
Sounds like you have a plan already.
Yes.
In place. That's it, that's all I have.
Is there a second?
I think we already got
I'll second
I've got
it.
a second. Now, any more comments? If not, let's vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Item 19, second reading of ordinance for the comprehensive plan amendment, adoption of the 5-year schedule of capital improvements and update of the capital improvements element. Zoning Manager Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the issue before the commission is to whether or not to approve an amendment to the capital improvements element to update the 5-year schedule and the, in the comp plan pursuant to Florida statutes and pursuant to the city's policy 1-5 of the capital improvements element. Just a little bit of background. Each local government in the state of Florida has to adopt what's called the capital improvements element. The element has to have a schedule of capital improvements, which are capacity projects, not operations projects, and it should cover at least a 5-year period. They should have projects that are both publicly and or privately funded, and those projects should ensure that the city is meeting its adopted level of service standards for all of the facilities that the city provides services. Those facility types are listed in the comp plan: transportation, water, sewer, solid waste, parks, open space, and I think that's it, 5. This is not an amendment to the comprehensive plan. It's now allowed to be adopted as an ordinance. It's not subject to review by the state agencies. The proposed 5-year schedule are just the capital projects that were taken from the city's adopted budget of this fiscal year. So there are no operational type projects in this update that's going to the CIE, just the capacity ones. In last year's CIE update, there were tables 6A through D or E. In this one, in this ordinance, we just extracted the capacity projects and then created a separate table so that there's not a lot of other rows in the table. So table 6A through D has now just been replaced with just table 6 in its entirety. So this is the new table 6. All of the different utility types are there: transportation, utilities, stormwater, and parks. Solid waste is in the CIE, as I mentioned, but it's maintained through the county, so it's not listed in our schedule. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the CIE update, and staff is recommending that the City Commission approve the ordinance to adopt the amendment in the capital improvements element and update the 5-year schedule in accordance with Chapter 163 and Policy 1-5. And that's it.
Okay. You want to read anything for us?
Yeah. This is an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, amending the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan as adopted in 1991, as amended. In order to comply with Section 163.31773 Florida statutes, amending the capital improvements element of the comprehensive plan, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
All right, we're going to open the public hearing. Anybody in the audience have any comments, want to make any comments for item 19, comprehensive plan amendment? All right, no comments. We'll close it, bring it up to us. Anybody up here have any comments? All right, I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Motion made.
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Oliver, seconded. I need a second.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Brinson. No more comments? Let's vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right, moving on to item 20. Ocoee Oaks UMC Communications Tower Special Exception. Zoning Manager Whitfield.
Thank you. So the issue is whether or not the commission should approve an application for a special exception for use of a portion of a property located at 201 South Clark for an innovative communication tower facility at a proposed height of 135 feet. The property is the Ocoee Oaks United Methodist Church location and generally in the northeast corner. The entire property is just over 12 acres. The lease area is around roughly 3,500 square feet. And that includes the access way, the security area, and also the facilities themselves. The main subject property is a combination of A1 and R1A. It received an R1A in October of last year. And I'll show you the map in just a second. The site is right next to the existing Orange County water tower, which has a cell tower on top of that. The new tower, which is on the church property, is to essentially replace the tower that's serving this area now that's on the water tower. The county had reached out to the lessee of the water tower, communications tower, that they will be decommissioning the water tower, so they have been instructed to remove their communications facilities and equipment. It's coming to this commission as a special exception because our Table 5-1 use table refers this to 5-19, and I'll go into detail on that in just a moment. This is an aerial of the location. The entire property is in yellow. The area that's leased, or the tower location, excuse me, is in the red square area. As mentioned, the northern portion of the property is retaining its A1 so that the church use can stay compliant with the zoning district. And then the southern, approximately 5 acres or so, was rezoned to R1A in last year. The entire property is low-density residential and surrounded by low-density residential with some institutional future land use designations. So the city has, at the end of Article 5, a map that's called the Communication Services Facilities Map. And that map shows that the city has 3 areas for communication facilities, areas 1, 2, and 3. The majority of the city is in Area 1, and that's the area that you see here that's in a horizontal hash. The subject property is here. In Area 1, there are 3 types of communication towers that are allowed. There is a building-mounted one, which has a maximum height of 50 feet, a camouflage tower type, which has a maximum height of 75 feet, and an innovative tower type, which has a maximum height of 125 feet. In Section 5-19, which regulates all cell towers in the city, it lists all the requirements for cell towers in general and all the requirements for each area and the cell tower types inside of each of those areas. So the provisions in 5-19 that would apply to this tower are 5-19E, H, I, and K. Staff went through all of the requirements in each of those sections and have found that the tower, that the proposed tower is consistent with those regulations, except for a couple minor things. One being that the landscape plan needs to be changed to reflect an evergreen canopy tree type instead of the understory tree that's in their initial plan. And that in terms of the tower design, so there's an optional 1 and option 2, which I'll go into in just a moment. So a quick comparison of the existing water tower. The water tower, if you see here in the mouse, it's here, and the apparatus for communications is on top of that. The water tower's current height, the cell tower's current height on the water tower is 145 feet. What they're asking for is 135 feet, so it's a 10-foot reduction from the height service area or service coverage that they have now, but it's 10 feet above what the max is in that area. In terms of service providers, there are currently 2 carriers there. The applicant will provide more detail as far as those providers, but what they're proposing now, this facility will be able to carry 4 carriers. And the design options, as I mentioned, one option is a monopine, which is essentially a giant pine tree. And then the second option is a bell tower. So as I mentioned briefly earlier, the other staff comment is that we are seeking the bell tower design option. In this graphic also I showed the red line is generally the boundary of where the new R1A property is. So it's A1 right next to R1A. So generally using the height measurements that the applicant teams provided in their plans, this is the water tower. And right at the very top is 145 feet. The proposed tree would be 135 feet. I also placed in here a picture of what an 80-foot mature pine would look like, just for a point of reference. Also, in both this design and the next design, they meet all the requirements as far as eagle nesting, lighting, security protections and things like that. That's in those sections that I mentioned earlier. This is the bell tower design. Again, 135 feet. This is an 80-foot pine tree. And then this is the compound. This is approximately, at this black line is the 6-foot fence. At the DRC meeting and at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, both of those bodies recommended approval, subject to the 2 conditions. One, again, the bell tower design, and also revising the planting schedule to reflect not just canopy trees, but evergreen variety of canopy trees, so that the security perimeter fencing will stay nicely landscaped and green year-round, as opposed to the ones where the leaves drop in the winter season. And with that, staff is recommending that the City Commission approve the special exception use for the cell tower at 201 Clark at a height of 135 feet, subject to the tower being a bell tower design and the change to the landscape plan. And Ms. Matanai-Jan is here to give the applicant's presentation.
All right, I'm going to open the public hearing. Did she fill out a form?
She's the applicant.
Yep, okay. Okay, don't.
Good evening, I'm Matt Sanaya John, 935 Main Street, Suite C4, Safety Harbor, Florida 34695, and I do have a PowerPoint presentation for you. I come before you today with DRC and PZC recommendations of approval for the 135-foot tall communication tower with the bell tower option as presented by Zoning Manager Whitfield, to be located at 201 South Clark Road. The property is developed as the Ocoee Oaks UMC Church. And the bell tower is proposed to replace cellular co-locations on the 145-foot tall tower, water tower that was presented by staff. Historically, multiple carriers have been co-located on the water tower that is immediately to the south and adjacent to an electrical substation. And this project is triggered because the county is removing that water tower. So in order to maintain existing service in the area, we have to take and construct a replacement tower. So this is literally a question of replacing existing facilities as opposed to trying to add something new to the area. All right, so you have an aerial in all these maps and aerials I show you tonight, up will be north, and are you able to see them on your screens on the dais? Excellent. The parent parcel is outlined in purple. You can see Clark Road running north and south. You can see White Road running east and west with the intersection immediately to our southeast. I've added an amber arrow just to point to the water tower location. And I apologize for telling you things that you already know. I'm just trying to make a record. And then I have a purple arrow pointing to the church property. Again, we get closer, and you have your intersection of Clark and White. The amber arrow pointing to the water tower location. And then the purple arrow points to the location where the bell tower will be proposed. We would be further west on the property, except that the church uses that area as their pumpkin patch and civic engagement space. And finally, just our closest view. Again, amber is the water tower. Purple points to the approximate location of the compound. You heard that we have split zoning on the property. The parent parcel is A1. The southern portion was recently zoned to R1A. The developer is aware of our project, and we've coordinated with them. There is no objection from the developer on this for the southern portion. We've even coordinated to the extent that we have shifted the compound south should the church and the developer choose to develop some type of an access off of Clark Road. Here's your future land use map, again, just as presented. This is an example of a monopine style communication tower. I know that staff is going in the direction of a bell tower. I'm obliged under Florida rules of ethics to just let you know that the monopine is available to you as an option should you choose to diverge and go a different route. They are engineered and designed to look like a tall tree, normally a Norfolk Southern pine. They have branches that are engineered. This is the type of technology that you see pioneered in the Tree of Life at Animal Kingdom, so it's proven. They sway in the breeze, they're foliated. The antennas would go up in the canopy inside socks that are foliated as well. This is a bell tower style communication tower. This just shows some of the finishes that can be placed on it. The proposed bell tower, and I will be showing you photo simulations soon, will be painted white to match the church campus. The whole idea of a bell tower style communication tower is it looks like it's an extension of the church campus. This is sheet Z1 from the plans, and I do apologize it doesn't show the compound shift, but the tower location is correct. And as you can see, to the north, we have the church facility, which is the building that's outlined with hash around the perimeter. And then when you come down south, you can see the location of the bell tower as well as the equipment compound around the base of it. The equipment compound is just a space to hold traffic light sized cabinets that have the computers that run the antennas and radio equipment up on the top end. This is a comparative aerial showing what is out there currently with the water tower versus the monopine. And then you also have the bell tower style communication tower that your DRC and your PCC recommended approval of. This tower can be, we're showing a carillon and uplighting. If is the desire of the commission, we can remove the carillon so that it would not play bell sounds, and we can remove the uplighting to make it completely dark at night. I'm now just going to run through photo simulations. So the first one is at Clark Road at the base of the water tower looking northeast. This shows the bell tower style communication tower. And then this shows the monopine. The next shot is from Rachel's Ridge Loop looking south. At this distance you can see the bell tower style communication tower, and you can see at this distance it scales comparative to the water tower, though it will have less width than what the water tower has. And then you also have your monopine. Again, that would be pokey. That would just appear to be a tree extending above the surrounding tree line. This is view 3 from Robbins Glen Road looking southwest. You have the visibility of the bell tower coming up from behind the canopy. Also, as you get closer to the tree lines at the edge of the property, your sight lines become sharper. You'll notice that objects in the midground, such as the ornamental tree off to the right, are able to completely buffer the bell tower. You'll also notice that the trees in the background are buffering at least half the tower. And then there's your monopine. This view is from Robbins Glen Road looking west, and you can see the bell tower poking out from behind the trees. Again, trees in the midground are able to fully obscure the bell tower. And then your monopine. You have a view from White Road looking north across the substation, and then also your water tower. And you can actually see there's black lines and antennas and the like on the water tower showing that there's current cellular co-locations on there. So your bell tower and your monopine. And finally, a view from Cambridge Village Court looking north. You have your bell tower and your monopine. You can see in both of these, they scale down within objects in the view shed, such as the high voltage power lines that are in the area. So this project was started ultimately by Verizon coming to Diamond Communications, my applicant, who is a tower developer. And Verizon received a deactivation notice from the county through the company that manages the co-locations on that water tower for them, called American Tower. And they were told that they were going to have to get off originally when this hit my desk at the end of October 2021. They were able to eke out a 1-year extension, which they were able to get. And then after that, it's basically a situation the carrier is kind of dragging their heels and just kind of inching along for more time. They do have to get off there before the county can do anything with that property as far as their plans to demolish the water tower. I called Public Works. My client has called Public Works. The carrier has called Public Works, and I've called Public Works. And the most that we've been able to get out of them is that they're planning to demolish the water tower. They don't know what they're doing next with the property. Evidently, there's a committee that's not fully formed yet that's going to be making decisions. I apologize. Did I sound a little too salty about efficiency of bureaus? I apologize. All right, so just for housekeeping, notice went out per your code from staff. The only public inquiries I'm aware of were from a planner that was asking status, and then also Lake Loda, which was a property kitty corner to us. They gave a conditional objection because they thought that somehow the bell tower could prevent them from developing their property, which is not how the law works. We did receive, at my P&Z hearing, the president of the Homeowners Association to the east attended, and he is here as well today, and he was supportive of the project. Finally, just for moving through this quickly, I'm showing you Verizon's coverage. AT&T is also going to be joining on the tower. T-Mobile is currently on the tower but hasn't yet signed because they normally don't sign for second seat during zoning. They wait until approval. So this shows Verizon's coverage in the area. Green is reliable, red is unreliable. And in the middle, you can see the water tower location. And this is the area that would lose reliable coverage if the water tower goes offline and there's no replacement for it. The whole idea is to replace that coverage footprint that you see. So that's why we have to stay very close to where the existing location is. You're trying to mimic the coverage footprint. It's no different than if I took one of those recessed lights up above your head and moved it a foot versus moving it 10, 20, 15 feet, 10, 20, 30 feet. You would not get the same lighting. This is AT&T's RF package. They will be providing service to the area for the first time. Again, up is north. AT&T runs their colors in reverse because RF engineers like to be ornery sometimes. So for them, red is strong signal coverage and green is weak. And you can see the area around White Road and Clark is currently mediocre to weak with the orange, the yellows, and some greens. And then you can see it become strong with the red. The other thing that's not showing that I cannot map is capacity for traffic, and this is no different than the capital plan that you approved earlier today for you. Carriers fight the exact same battle of concurrency of keeping up with traffic. So imagine if you were to take for Verizon, imagine if you were to take a major thoroughfare out of service, what that would do to the traffic grid. It's the same problem for Verizon. For AT&T, imagine adding a major thoroughfare to your traffic grid in an area where you have burdened roads. It's the exact same effect. Finally, I'd just like to direct you to the 2021 911 call statistics for Orange County. And in 2021, over 89% of all 911 calls received by the Orange County Sheriff's Office came from wireless phones. And that just shows that reliable wireless service is not a luxury, it's a necessity, and it's the basic infrastructure of our daily lives. With that, Diamond respectfully requests the City Commission approve the special exception as shown in the application and the staff report. Bar rules require me to remind you that you can approve it as a monopine. We will be perfectly happy to construct it as a bell tower if you so choose. And I'm available for any questions that you may have. I reserve any remaining time for rebuttal. Thank you.
All right, I have one from Mr. Gombin about this issue.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, and City staff. My name is Doug Gomber. I am the current HOA president of White Hill, which is the community that would be most affected because we do abut up against this property. There's a lot going on in our neighborhood right now. There's some plans going on for the R1A redevelopment that's going on down there. This, however, is something that the entire community is 100% behind. We are counting down the day. We're going to have a big picnic when that stupid tower comes down, because that has just been an ugly, ugly thing hanging over our houses. And this is going to be a welcome thing. They've done a very good job, I think, at trying to make this tower fit in with the community. That bell tower fits perfectly with the church property. And as far as what we can see, we will be able to see more of it than you can see on your renderings, but we like the way that that's going to work. And we do encourage you to take the bell tower plan. No one in our subdivision likes that tree option. That's just not flying. But we would approve of your approving of this amendment and this project. These people have been very cooperative with us as far as our homeowner association, and we might be small, but we're mighty. And we're going to be up in front of you guys again, I'm sure, in the upcoming months. But this is a project that we think is well worth taking. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. All right, anybody else in the public have any comments? All right, I'm going to close it and bring it up to the dais. All right, commissioners, any comments?
I'll let you go first. That's your district.
No, again, I have not had anything but positive comments regarding the bell tower, not the Norfolk, whatever you would call it, Norfolk Island look-alike. So again, I'm supportive of the bell tower. And I think that many of us don't realize that, if I'm correct, that the church at the cross, that's what they have, is a cell tower. And the cross that was approved, not by us, it was a county project, but I know it came before us many years ago.
Yeah.
So.
Anybody else?
Yes, I have some questions. Probably want to come back up. Mike, you might want to join. You talked about public works. I know you, I'm sorry, what was your name again?
My first name is Matanaya, Commissioner Brinson.
I'm not going to get that right, so.
It's okay. There's 66 counties in the state of Florida,
Okay.
and we have there's 67 pronunciations.
Oh, there you go. When you talked about public works, you were talking about Orange County Public Works, correct?
Orange County, yes, sir.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that was on the record, not Ocoee Public Works. That was the one you contacted. Now, the question, I mean, I have a bunch of questions, and you probably answered some of them in your presentation, but I want to make sure that we kind of hash some of them out. One of which is the functionality of the tower itself. Is that bell tower functioning bells, or is it recordings, or is it just aesthetics?
So the bells, the carillon, if deployed, would be recorded bells. So it would play a high definition audio of bells ringing.
Okay, which is a good question. The church, where do they stand on this? What does the church stand on the bell tower thing? Is that, they have any issues, concerns with it?
No.
So, Matt and I, John again, and the church doesn't have feelings either way on the bells. That was just offered for context, and if the commission would like to delete the bell sounds to make the facility silent, we would be perfectly okay with that.
Well, yeah, and I'm specifically talking about that
bell tower going on that property. The church is in favor of that, I'm assuming.
Yes.
They were neither here nor there on the design.
Where they can, okay,
They weren't concerned about either of those designs.
okay. I'm gonna ask you something else. I'm sure someone else would ask this, but I'm gonna ask it first. 5G, is this gonna be 5G?
Commissioner Brinson, Matt and I, John, yes, this will be 5G equipped.
Is there a 6G?
Not yet, and at the rate that they took to deploy 5G, by the time they get around to 6G, I will probably be getting ready for retirement. But it will someday, there will be a 6G when our traffic demands exceed what 5G can do for us.
Sounds like we're well on our way with the million-plus calls from 911, that, you know, in Orange County.
And that doesn't even include all of your device connections.
Right.
So every device that connects to the network takes up basically as much space on the network as a cell phone. So your Internet of Things everyone talks about, with all these different devices that are connected and you can monitor and interact with, and they can do things to help run smart cities, run businesses. Those all are in the process of coming onto your network as well.
Okay, well, let me ask this, and this is, it's related, but I don't know if it's germane to this subject, but 5G, if they put in 5G, is your company or the other carriers going to also do that around Orange County?
So as far as that goes, most existing towers are already equipped with 5G antennas, and they have brought those online.
Okay.
What I've been doing, the work that I've been doing for the carriers has been with new towers, mostly increasing capacity to try to handle the traffic.
Commissioner Brinson, you might be thinking of, there are some companies that go out there and do little poles in right-of-ways that can't be taller than the light pole. They do little 5G stations just to, as an opportunity. And so those are a little bit different than this. But we have on all of our current carriers had change-outs for the 5G towers.
Okay. And, okay. I know we talked about, we pretty much month to month, right? Because they're supposed to have been out of there already.
Yes, Commissioner Brinson.
Let's say February 1st, they say, you know what, we're tired of waiting, we're cutting you guys off. Then what?
Well, we hope that doesn't happen, because if they hit us like that and we were unable to get the new tower constructed before the old one had to be totally decommissioned, we would either lose service in the area for the small time it would take to complete the site plan review, which is already in process, and the building permit and construct, or we would need to come back to you and ask about something called a cell on wheels, a COW. We're doing everything we can to avoid that, so that way we don't have those temporary towers out there, because you can't make them look camouflaged.
Right, and I was going there with Mike. I didn't know if that was something we were considering and actually, you know, working that solution before it becomes a problem.
So as Matt and I mentioned, the COW or TOW, cell tower on wheels, I think the one that they have has a capability of 125 feet. It's just a big, it's like a big spider, 4 legs, tower shoots up. It provides some limited services that would be processed through a small-scale site plan to help ensure that there isn't a huge disruption in services.
Okay, great, because obviously one of the things I'm concerned with is public safety. So when we start looking at our first responders who are using cell phones and other type of devices that use cellular service, I don't want them to all of a sudden cut the service and say, we're taking this tower down, and next you know, what's our workaround with that. So thank you for that. So we don't know when the termination is. And the last thing I had, I know you mentioned that there was a tower on Clark Road, further up Clark Road, but is there another, where's the closest cell tower in Ocoee to this tower?
Let me go back to my RF maps, and I can show you my closest tower to the north. So we're showing our closest tower, and this is just a Verizon-provided map, but I'm pretty sure this is comprehensive, is located 3.43 miles to the north, which is a very long distance for cell towers.
And what are these other mileages you have here?
Those are distances to the nearest Verizon towers in each direction. So you have one to the northeast that is 1.76 miles. You have one to the southeast that is 2.93 miles. One to the southeast that is 1.61 miles. And as you go around, you spread out to the 2 to 3 mile range with 2.78 to your south-southwest or west-southwest, and then 2.31 miles off to the west and 3.25 miles off to the northwest.
Okay, so, but the tower that we're talking about that's on Clark Road and White Road, that tower is integral for for most of the cell service in that part of Ocoee.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just have a quick question regarding, when we're talking about wireless service for our cell phones, those mobile devices. Does a tower such as this or any other tower have any give any opportunity for wireless in your homes, like internet services or those kind of things in the home?
This is Matt Tenaya, John. Yes, it depends on the cellular network. So, for example, Verizon a few years ago was selling a hub that was essentially a cellular connection that would set up a Wi-Fi connection in your home. And I know that all the carriers have that option in their inventory of what you can use, and that just connects to the network as is.
So the reason I ask that, because we have several several communities that is pretty much they can only use one carrier. They don't have one carrier in the entire neighborhood, and that carrier goes down, obviously everything's out. So I'm just wondering, with these towers that you put, is there any opportunity, that was the reason for my question, opportunity to convert from one carrier or have options to use several other carriers for internet service in the home, as opposed to just relying on one carrier?
So, Matt Tenaya, John again. And the answer to that is a little bit more complicated. The towers themselves are generally co-located. That's encouraged under your code, sharing towers, so we reduce the overall number of towers in the city and the area. For example, this tower will have both Verizon and AT&T on it at the beginning. The device that actually connects to the cellular network and provides Wi-Fi that you are thinking about is usually a device that is provided to you by an individual carrier. You pay a monthly subscription to it. So if you're paying, T-Mobile, to pick on them since they're not at the party at the moment, if you pay T-Mobile for your Wi-Fi hotspot, right, that device isn't going to connect to a Verizon network usually.
So basically, it sounds as if that if we have one area that is just using one carrier, a cell tower, the technology that you're using is not going to be conducive to getting internet within the home if there is no third-party carrier to connect and then send it to the home.
We are, and I do apologize, talking about home Wi-Fi hotspots is right on the edge of, I normally don't have this discussion, I'm only talking in terms of phones, which can roam onto other networks. Your home Wi-Fi hotspot, it's linked to the carrier that you get it from. So.
Yeah, I'm always looking for options that will alleviate residents of being, for lack of a better term, held hostage by one carrier, and allowing other carriers to come into the area that will give them options. And then that means that you have competitive pricing at that point. So that means that if there's one carrier in place, they continue to go up on the prices, they're held hostage to that price. So I'm just looking for a solution that may allow another carrier to come into the area that will offer other opportunities for residents.
Yes. Commissioner Oliver, I would submit that this tower does that because it allows co-location. That goes back to the way that your code is written, where multiple carriers can use that tower. So if someone has a home Wi-Fi spot, and let's say it connects to T-Mobile again, just picking on them because they're not at the party, and they are unhappy with that service, they can change over to another carrier, and that service is already in the area because the tower is being shared by multiple providers in this case.
That will power the Wi-Fi in the home as well.
Yes, they would have to, just like you would have to change out your cell phone to change carriers, or at least change out your SIM card, you would have to do that with your device.
Okay.
And Commissioner Oliver, this is a good example. The code allows a tower at 75 foot. Just, you can do a tower at 75. And at a 75-foot tower, you're not going to get co-locations. It's too low. That's why our code offers an opportunity to go up to 125 foot in order to have the opportunity to get co-locates, spread out the bandwidth. And then this additional 10 foot that would possibly be approved by this commission will create the incentive for the companies to have 4 of them and have that opportunity. So what happens is the small towers, you don't have the co-locates. So that's one benefit of this special exception, which is quasi-judicial, is that this commission is seeing the need and potentially, with staff's recommendation, could approve a maximum height of 135 foot. So there's no excuse why a carrier would not locate there and you would have that opportunity. We don't, so each tower that comes on, if there's one in an area and it's 75 foot, they're going it alone. They want to be the only character, and that can come in with your review of a special exception. So the good thing is they are proposing a taller one. We figured out a way to mitigate that height perception of a tower, and we've created the opportunity to have 4. We can't go out and call them and make them co-locate, but that is the opportunity. That's a good benefit of this application.
So it sounds as if we approve this project tonight, it opens up the gateway for another project in other areas that will bring on additional carriers.
They have that incentive. Now they're here on Clark Road. Now they'll look, where can we get better coverage with big traffic? Then they'll look at these other towers if they're not currently co-locating, and it creates that opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it?
That's it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Nobody else? That was, public hearing is still open, isn't it? No, it's on the dais. Anybody else? Nobody else? I need a motion.
Closing the public hearing?
Hmm?
Did you close the public hearing?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's why we're up here.
Okay, no, I just want to make sure. I make the motion to approve as a bell tower.
Per staff recommendation.
For staff recommendation.
There's Commissioner Wilson made the motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Oliver. Any more comments? No more comments. Let's vote. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Regular agenda. Appointment of members to the Human Relations Diversity Board. City Clerk Melanie.
Good evening. So before you is the staff report that I presented. At the December 6th meeting, the commission was instructed to bring forward any applicants that they were seeking to appoint. With the current adoption of the resolution that was on the consent agenda, the HRDB board is going to consist of no less than 5 and no more than 7 voting members, and each city commissioner shall appoint 1 person from the commissioner's district. The mayor shall appoint 1 person from any district, and there will be 2 additional at-large voting members. I have provided all the applications that we have received. I've also included an additional one that was received today that is printed out before you on the dais.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm requesting that we extend this to the next commission meeting. I am still seeking out additional applicants to fill this position for District 2. I have 1 applicant. I've had one person express another person express an interest. But again, I'm requesting that we extend this 2 weeks to the next commission meeting.
All right. Is that a motion?
I don't know if others have comments, but I will make that a motion.
We can make the comments in the Is there a second? Motion made by Commissioner Wilson. Do I hear a second? Hand that over to him. I'll make the second.
Okay. Motion on the floor is to extend the item for 2 weeks. Motion was made by Commissioner Wilson, seconded by Mayor Johnson. Let's vote.
Motion carries, oop, not me, that's you.
Motion carries with Commissioner Oliver and Commissioner Brinson saying no.
No. All right. Thank you. All right. Item 22, discussion and direction of various items requested by District 1 Commissioner Larry Brinson.
Okay, in this email I sent out to the city manager asking him to put this on the agenda is because I think we've discussed many of these items before in commission. However, I don't know if we've actually did a consensus and/or made it a vote. And so some of these things I think we need to go ahead and bring back to the table and actually either get a consensus on it or vote. And one of the first, I'm just going to go down the list. We'll tackle each one in order, if you will. The first one I have is due to having trouble meeting quorum in order to conduct meetings of the citizen advisory boards for fire and police, I would like to have these 2 items considered. First is combining the fire and police advisory board into one citizen advisory public safety board. And 2 would be capping that number of the members of that that public service board to not to exceed 10. And so that's the first one I have, and I don't know if there's anyone who'd like to make comments on that.
Well, I will make a couple comments. One of the fire reserve board's been there for quite a while. Retired fire lieutenant has passed along the message that he doesn't. The ones that are on there now, they want to do that. There's only 3 or 4 of them that are there really, and those passed along the message they didn't want to do that. So that's what I was told by the fire reserve guys.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I got that same comments when we was here having that similar discussion. But they don't decide whether we combine those boards. That's our job. And so
I didn't say they did. I said they didn't want to.
Right, and I understand that, but
Okay.
we have to decide what's best for the city if we're going to have these 2 boards. So the police board oftentimes do not have enough to meet quorum to conduct business in the city. And then the fire have similar concerns. But if you combine the 2, then I suspect that you will be able to meet quorum when these advisory boards actually meet. And then it's a public safety board, and they can discuss public safety from the police perspective as well as the fire perspective, and not just have just individual boards, because they're not being able to meet quorum. And so I understand that there are some members of the advisory board for fire who do not want to combine the board, and they want to maintain a fire, I can't even get the initials right, the Citizen Advisory Fire Advisory Board, something like that. But in the interest of public safety, I think it's best if we just combine those into a public safety board, as many municipalities who are surrounding us have done. So,
Commissioner Brinson? I agree with you 100% on your rationale. I'm the liaison for the fire board, and I had lengthy discussions with them at a few meetings ago. And I told them what our concerns were and that we had real strong concerns about their lack of forming a quorum, their lack of performance, and I laid it out for them. I said, you know, you're falling down on the job. They listened, and they paid attention, and they reacted. And since then, we've had 2 meetings, and they've had full participation, they've had full quorums, and they're actually planning out different events for this coming year. So I could see the activity level really increasing. But they were also adamant about the fact that they would resign if it was forced upon them to join the 2 boards. They're not interested in that at all, for whatever reasons they have. They're very territorial, and they don't want to give their anonymity up right now.
And I get that, and I really do appreciate that, and thank you for that, Commissioner Fershner, because it's important that our advisory boards are actually working towards their mission and vision. It is important. And it's unfortunate, though, that they have to take you to get at them, if you will, for them to step up. That's unfortunate. And so my question is, how long will that last? Sure, it's been the last few meetings that they've been able to come together and do a quorum and plan events. But I play at least one iteration of the what-if game. What if that stops?
True, I'm concerned about that too, and I'm going to stay on them about their activities. Some of their activities, they're planning on making more public events possible, going out, talking to the public more, and increasing their recruitment efforts for members on the board, and that certainly will help. They had very good members for different reasons. Sickness is a big one. A few of them had to drop out because they just couldn't do it anymore based on their health. A few others had moved away outside of the city. So they didn't replenish their ranks as that happened. And they were just very happy with the little group that they had. But I told them that that's not acceptable. They're going to have to really increase their productivity as a board and their activity in the community. So I'm going to try to help them along best I can and guide them in their mission. So we'll just have to see.
Right, and I think that's this, and I do applaud you for that. I do, because I sit on the police advisory board, and we're having the same issue. And I've told them, I said, you guys got to come together. And I'll tell it, when we sit on the police advisory board, if an advisory board, in this case the police advisory board, is planning something, but the police department is also planning something, it would just seems natural to me to come together to both entities to plan together. But yet I find duplication of effort. I find that the advisory board oftentimes does not know what the police department is up to, and vice versa. That, to me, you would think they'd be hand in glove working together on these things, and they're not. And so that really drove me to this, as well as, you know, speaking about the fire, having some concerns and challenges in meeting quorum.
They also had that disconnect, but the fire chief was in attendance in those 2 meetings, and they both understand what the problem is, and they both assured me that they're going to make an extra effort talking to each other to get, you know, activities co-planned and sponsored by the fire department, vice versa.
Does anyone else like to weigh in? No?
Yeah, I will, but, first of all, what are the statistics for the police department? What are the statistics of the attendance? I mean, I don't have that to work with. I think it takes effort on the police department. I'm liaison to the Park and Recreation, and it takes the Park and Recreation effort to engage the group. And so I, again, wonder if they're not, if the police department's board is not coordinating with the police department, and the police department is not coordinating with them. They just had an open house. Was the advisory board there participate, I went to the board, and I went to that, you were there?
Yeah.
I probably spent 2 hours. Was there any table there from the police department board trying to solicit membership? I mean, I'm just looking at I think the police department has a responsibility also to engage. And I'm not saying they're not doing it, but, I have heard the the CACOFD does not want to disband, will not go together. Then I think the police department, we need to engage them. Maybe during this coming up, I think it starts 25th of this month, please don't hold me to that date, but it's going to be a joint effort between the police department and the fire department running the academy. Maybe they can obtain members during that time. Is it the 25th?
Yes.
Hope someone will tell me I'm right or wrong. But it's a great time for them to engage members, potential members to the board. I understand the territorial, and I understand what you're trying to do is, but you may lose all of the fire department members, and then you'll have nothing. That's the concern I would have.
And I looked at that, I considered that, and I don't want to lose anyone. I think everyone brings something to the table. But if you have very few members already, and if just one of them missed the meeting, the issue of quorum comes up. So you cannot conduct business. So that's, again, we up here have to make that tough decision on what is it that we think is best for these advisory boards. So that's why I'm bringing up, and we discussed it before, but we didn't make a decision on what we want to do.
Can we make a motion on either way for the fire department or the police? We're going to be back and forth on this.
But before we make a motion, I would like to make a comment. We have seen what happens when we consider or we take a stance as to what we think a board should or should not be doing, or when we come up to the conclusion that a board is not functioning properly, we get rid of that board. Perfect example, we got rid of the Human Relations Diversity Board. And
No, we did not. No, we did not.
Can I finish?
I don't like it.
We disassembled it, the board, and then we reconstructed the board. So at some point, that board was disassembled. So again, we had some conversation up here about the dysfunction of that board and members that was disruptive of that board. And there was a decision that was made by this commission to disassemble it and then reconstruct it. So I hope that term kind of soothes everyone. But nonetheless, we addressed that. And it sounds to me that we're dealing with the same issue here with the fire, the advisory board, the CHCO, OFD, and the PD. So we say we have the police department advisory board who's not engaging with the police department. It's a possibility that there's some kind of communication disconnect or whatever, which makes that board ineffective. Then we also have the fire board that they have problems meeting quorum. The solution would be to join those boards together. If there is members that decide that they don't want to be a part of that board and it is in the best interests of the city, then so be it. There are other members of the city that wants to get involved in these boards. So therefore, again, it's about doing what's right for the city. It's also about coming together, bringing them together to actually form one mission of the first responders or public safety. And it's a combined effort between the police department and the fire department. So it sounds to me that this is something that we've seen before. We've had these discussions, but again, we have our own opinions and ideas about how things should go. But in my opinion, that we have seen this and we have handled it a certain way, and I don't see any reason why we can't handle that the same way we handled other boards that we have disassembled and then reconstructed.
Okay, all right. Here's the way to look at it also. One of the things that you said is the truth. It's our fire department's got to go out, and also when they do these functions they go to, they can put in for people to be on the board. there was not any, there's not any problems on that board. It's just something about not a people being there. There's a difference between the two of what we did on the other board. There is no conflict or interest or anybody arguing on these boards. They just, somebody's not there. There's a difference. So, and the good thing about this democracy is we all can vote either way. So that's how it works. So you can make your motion, or she makes a motion, and then we'll vote on which way we think it ought to go. And that's why democracy is what it is. So, all right, we're going to vote on the first issue.
I just wanted to say something, Mayor, if you don't mind. With the HRDV board, it was, I've heard it so many times up here. You see something, say something. Someone walked up to this microphone and told us they felt threatened. That is a reason you reorganize. When someone says they feel threatened at that meeting and they request police to be there. So see something, say something, they did, we acted. And we have an obligation to act. We should not allow something to happen on a board that we are told is a problem, and then we ignore it. We did not ignore that. Use the saying all you want. See something, say something, we did something. And I don't think that's inappropriate. Now, no one has come to us from the CACOPD or the CACOFD and told us there is a problem. If they're working with the department, God bless them, let them go, keep going, working with that department. If they're not working with the department, maybe the department needs to find a reason to help them or to foster new members. But we have an obligation, and we took that obligation, I'll just speak for me. I took that obligation seriously. And that is why we reorganized, not all the terms that want to get used. We are reorganizing. Now, and I'm going to make a motion. No, I don't know what to make the motion for, because I don't think it's appropriate. I don't have any statistics in front of me to show me how many people have been to the CACOPD, to their meetings, what's been the statistics to make that change. And then I also have the problem where Commissioner Ferstner says CACOFD doesn't want to do, they don't want to change. So.
If there's no motion, we don't change anything.
I'm going to make a motion to combine the Police and Fire Advisory Board into a Public Safety Board.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second that motion, and also make a comment after I second that motion.
Commissioner Brinson, I think your motion would be to direct staff to bring back a resolution to combine the two boards.
Yes, that's exactly what I meant to say.
All right, he said that. Commissioner Branson? All right,
I'll second that, but I also want to actually say, thank you for your comments, Commissioner Wilson. I appreciate that. Again, a member, you're absolutely right. Your facts were spot on. There was a member that did come before this commission, felt threatened, and we decided to, as you say, reorganize. I use the words deconstruct and reconstruct the board, which means the exact same thing. The only issue that I have is the fact that when a member comes and say that they're threatened or feel threatened on a board, we should address the issue of what is the threat. We go directly for the threat, not disassemble an entire board of folks that's actually doing the work just because there's one or two members that are being disrupted. Those two members should have been disciplined as opposed to disrupt or remove the ordinance. I'm sorry, in your words, reconstruct the board. So again, thank you so much for your comments.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. So, yes vote means to combine the two boards. No vote means you're voting against combining it. So let's vote. Motion carries no, not to combine them. All right, next.
Okay, the next one on the list is the review of all boards in the city for effectiveness, use of funds, and size, in order that we increase the efficacy of the boards by various means, including considering reducing the number of members serving on those boards. And I say that because we had a board here in the city that was required to do a lot of I would say jumping through hoops and I don't know if that's across the board. And so we need to make sure that whatever boards that we have in the city, the way they spend money, how they spend money, what they've spent money on, is proper and correct when it comes to taxpayer dollars. So I would like to have an audit of those boards.
Which boards?
All boards that's dealing with monies that are budgeted or allocated by the city to the board.
You want to audit a board that we give $2,000 to?
All boards that receive monies from the city and how they're spending the money.
And who's going to do the audit and how much is it going to cost?
I don't know how much it's going to cost. That's up to the audit. But it does, if someone is, let's say we give a board, hypothetically speaking, $2,000, and all of a sudden there's a big screen TV that is purchased, but we can't find that big screen TV. That's a problem, and that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make a difference the dollar amount. What you're auditing is the fact that they're getting monies, and that's what I'm looking for.
Are you aware of a board that's getting a big screen TV? Or, because I am the
hypothetically.
liaison on the Park and Recreation Board. They spent $800 to buy signs to go around the city.
Well, that's fine.
Christmas.
And that,
I
and
mean,
that will show that.
I'm questioning who's going to audit and how much is it going to cost us to audit these $2,000 boards?
We have mechanisms in place. We have a finance department that can do just that.
Any other comments?
I think that's all that's required, is if you have questions, just go to finance and ask where it's been spent. They don't have the ability to go out and just spend money any way they want. It has to be worked through finance.
Right. And, okay, city staff, I would like that audit to be provided to me.
Are you asking for a list of what what they have paid so far?
City staff, I would like that, per my email, I would like that board, all boards, how they're using funds to be provided to me.
Okay, so you're doing a public records request. Basically, you're asking for a public record of what each board has spent starting since October 1st?
That's not what I asked for.
I
asked the city staff to provide me with the information. I believe he just wrote it down. I believe the city manager just wrote it down of what I'm asking for.
I think I understand what you're asking for to an extent, Commissioner, so we can provide summation of what each board has spent money on. And after that, because some of the boards have no money, some have 1,000 or 2,000, so I'm having a trouble transitioning from
if they have zero money, then there's
from
zero
an
nothing.
audit to a listing of what they purchased first. How about this? Can I suggest, why don't we get you a listing of what all the boards have spent money on, and if you think there's something on there that warrants further check? Because I think when you see some of that stuff, it may give you a level of comfort as to what they actually purchased for the year. And if there's something more you want after that, we can discuss that. I'm just not sure what more we can provide at this point. I think what you're going to see is some of the boards have bought shirts for themselves, and
right, and that's fine.
Yeah, and I think Commissioner Wilson said at certain point, there might be signs or something that they have to buy every once in 10 years or something like that. But I think as an interim step, maybe if we just get you that stuff and you take a look at it and see if there's anything that really interests you.
Let's do that.
Deeper dig. Okay.
Let's do that.
Okay.
All right, last thing on my list, wait a minute, let me make sure it's the last. It's not the last. The third thing on my list is an audit of the advisory. Is that what I just talked about? Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go down. No, I was right. Conducting an audit of boards, all events, functions, and use of taxpayer dollars that are used, donated, endorsed, and where the city contributes monetarily in any way. Additionally, audit all monies collected due to events, including but not limited to donations, transfers in and transfers out of the city, expenditures fundraisers or any event where the city disperses or receives any money at all. And I say that because we've had monies coming into the city, and we've actually had, it's been said, not by me, but by city staff, that they don't provide reports for certain monies that come into the city. They don't track those monies. I think that's problematic. And I would like to see how money is coming into the city. When it comes in the city, where is it being placed? Where does it live? And when it leaves the city, where is it going? And to whom it is going? We just had an event last year and had the event planner jump through hoops. And I'm asking for the same thing that they ask of that event planner. So that's what I'm asking for there.
So what you're asking for, let's just be right to the point. You want the funding information for the music festival.
No,
That's what
not
you-
just, no, not just the music festival.
That's
It's not, did I say music festival? I'm sorry.
No, but that's my interpretation, that it sounds
Yeah,
like.
they got it.
Because that's what
You can get it.
that's what you've been saying, is that's what the conversation's been up here regarding how the committee handles their funding. So now you're saying that I know you're discussing the Unity Festival and HRDV, and it's my interpretation from what you said here is that you're asking for to be blunt, the music festival. Why? I don't
Yeah,
see
they
anything
got
else
it.
that goes on.
But I'm not, I don't even know if I ever talked about financing, the finance portion for the music festival ever on this dice. I may have, but that's not what I'm asking for. What I'm asking for is what I just read. And that is how money is dispersed out of the city and how money is received into the city. How is it transferred in and transferred out? And where does it live when it comes into the city? That's what I'm asking for.
Right.
And whether it's a Ocoee Music Festival or Unity Festival, or whether it's the jamboree we just had, whatever it may be, that's what I want. I'm not picking on anybody. I don't do that.
I don't mind you
First of all,
picking on me, 'cause
but I don't pick on, I don't pick on events in the city.
Right.
You've never seen me pick on events in the city. I just do not do that. But what I do make a point is to make sure that when we're being responsible for taxpayer dollars, I'm going to be responsible.
All right.
And people may not like it, but I'm
All right.
that's what I
Can
would
make
like.
a comment?
Sure.
All right, I don't, I don't know what employee would tell you that the money ain't getting put somewhere, but I will tell you that, one of the comments that I've heard is that the Music Fest has got hidden money. I don't know where it's at, but I will tell you as a fact that was in somebody's, deal in the 1920 deal was not done the way it's supposed to be done. It was not utilized the way we said to do it, but that's another story that we already voted on. But I will tell you, and I've tried to tell the other gentleman that keeps harping on that, go to the finance department upstairs, and pull all the records. Every time you spend money, it goes through their process in the finance department. Every time we take a check, that check doesn't come to the Music Fest, it goes to the finance department. That bill gets paid because they send a bill from the person doing the job. And when the money gets through, they go through and do an audit of it, and there's a paper. I didn't bring it tonight. I was going to bring it from another gentleman. I was hoping he'd be here. That paper shows you step by step. But for some reason, nobody can get it between the ears because they just want to use that when they're out publicly telling people that we don't do it right. But that's not true. It's a damn lie. And here's another thing. People going around town and telling people during the election time that somebody in the city's stealing money. You know, I don't know how you think a city with our credentials and our budget and our finance systems that is audited all the time, what's wrong with people? But I'm not going to tell you names, but they're around. You're going around town, walking into businesses. I can take you to the businesses if you'd like to go. And they're going in there and the person running for office and telling them this people up here stealing money. But if you want an audit, the Music Fest, you'll find out that's one of the better run things there is. We don't get $3,500 donated one time. We get 200, 250, 300. That's the kind of money that gets donated, and it goes straight through the finance department, and runs through. Nobody touches it. Every bill is turned in automatically. Nobody's paid till they got it all. They got to have the 1099, they got to have their insurance, everything's done by order. So that part of the audit, I don't care, let them go get it, because it'll prove it.
And it's unfortunate if what you're saying is true, that someone is going around.
It is true.
If someone's going around the city in publicly or in businesses and private, saying that people up here, or I don't know if they're talking about the people here on the dais or city staff are stealing money, that is offensive to me, because I sit up here as well.
Well, I'll tell you who it is sometime.
Yeah, and I really don't need anyone's money. I have my own. And I'll say it again. I have my own. I don't need, I worked hard all my life to get to where I am in life, so I don't need it. But I will say that checks and balances is important. And when people start pushing back hard about doing an audit, I start wondering why they're pushing back so hard. I don't know if Ronald Reagan came up with this phrase. I don't know where it originated, but he made it famous. Trust, but verify. That's my mantra. I've told y'all before, I've managed a whole bunch of money before when I worked in the defense, in the Pentagon. And no matter what, I thought I was doing right. That comptroller would come through, and that IG would come through periodically and say, open your books. They could care less how much of a good person I thought I was. Trust but verify. We must trust but verify. That's why we have a report card. When we get elected to office, we get elected because we made these promises. And people say, you know what, I'm going to roll the dice, I'm going to give you a shot. But after we've been in office, you don't have to roll the dice. They just need to look at our report card. What have we done and not done? I think that's important. Trust but verify. If anyone in this city, anyone on this dice, anyone in the city staff, anyone that works for this city asks me, do I trust them? I'm going to tell you, kind of, sort of, in a way, but I'm going to verify what you're saying to me is true. And if they get offended by that, they probably need to move on, because that's the way the world works. Trust but verify. And audit is the best way to verify, is by way of audit. And when people start acting like they don't want to get audited, or the audits that they've already doing, which they provide the numbers, that's a problem. I'll say this again. Trust but verify. People push back too hard when you start talking about audits. I'll push even harder to get the audit. Rarely have I talked about audits since I've been on this dice. Rarely. But I'm talking about it now, because it's become a problem for me. Because every time I turn around, when we talk about audit, people say, we don't need audit. We give it to the state. Well, what the state is requiring of us is us giving them numbers. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for what's in number 4, which is, in addition, conduct an outside operational audit of the city of Ocoee that is separate, more comprehensive, and not the same as the reporting requirements to the state of Florida. That type of audit was already approved by this commission long before I got on this commission. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was funded at $50,000? It was funded at $50,000, that's 50, but it was never executed. That audit was never executed.
I think, Commissioner, part of the reason that it never moved from there, and the commissioner who recommended at the time had come back from Florida League of Cities, and they said this is something good to do, so he asked to put it in the budget. But there was never any point where a certain program or some type of function was looked at. It was just, it's good to do an operational audit, it's good to do a performance audit, but not really looking at the dozens or hundreds of different programs and functions that we do. Like a financial audit, we'll look at everything, all the money that comes in the city and where it goes. For a performance audit, we really need to drill down a little into some functions that we want to look at. And that was never done. I think that's why that money was never spent then. I know we've talked about it. I think from a staff's point of view, we don't have any issue with doing that, but a performance audit of all the dozens or hundreds of programs that we have in the city, I couldn't even imagine what the cost would be for
Yeah,
that.
and I
So perhaps the way to start is during mid-year, or during budgeting, we identify some of the programs where maybe we should do something like that. But it's never brought up as to what functions we want to look at.
Right, and I thank you for that, City Manager Frank, because that's important to identify where we want to look first. And then if something comes out of that, we can drill down even deeper.
Yeah,
But you got to start somewhere.
And I think it's impractical to just say, let's do a performance audit of the city, because there's literally hundreds of programs, and you'd have to have dozens of auditors running
Right,
around.
and we don't want that. We don't want auditors running around bumping into one another because so many of them. But I would like to see an audit of certain areas, and especially those areas that are high dollar spenders. So whether it's police and fire, whether it's the finance department, whether it's any department that spends a considerable, and I don't know what the definition of considerable is, amount of money. So I would like a consensus to actually fund and conduct an audit of departments that is also coordinated with city staff.
I believe in transparency, but we also have a finance director that told us that it could cost well over $100,000 to do an audit of a particular program. And I've got sidewalks, and after you finish doing audits of multiple programs at $100,000 plus each, and she did those, she told us. Rebecca told us she did those. And I believe in transparency. But when we have a healthy reserve, we're doing something right. And when we have a situation where you want to spend $100,000 on an audit, when $100,000 can pave maybe a part of a neighborhood or clean up some of the sidewalks that we're not going to get with the $250,000 we've already put into sidewalks this year, I have a problem with some of that. I think that we look at spending. We can look at how we spend. If you have some departments that you want to pull the records from, that's one thing. But I cannot, in good faith, look at hundreds of thousands of dollars spent to audit when I personally look at our healthy reserve. We're doing something right when we have a healthy reserve, when we can go ahead and clean up after a storm and not have to worry about when FEMA's not going to give it back to us for 5 years, and still have that healthy reserve. And I would rather put the money into sidewalks and items that our residents need and want. I don't hear a clamoring for folks out there saying, oh, you need to audit. During an election time, yes, we hear that. Transparency, we need to audit. I hear all this. But I don't hear that from our residents. I hear sidewalks, streets, potholes. That's what I hear. And they want $100,000 into the sidewalks and not into an audit. I think we can review, if you want to go up to finance and review and look at what the Jolly Jamboree cost, that came out of recreation. I was involved in that. They put that in the budget and they paid for it. We paid for that out of our budget. But I just have a problem when you start putting hundreds of thousands of dollars out for an audit. That's my opinion.
And if memory serves me correct, I don't think it was hundreds of thousands or $100,000 for each department. I think the finance director mentioned $100,000 for the audit itself for the city. But I agree with you, because we've talked about sidewalks before and other amenities in the city that need it. But I don't know if you were part of the commission when they voted unanimously for this type of audit.
That's when they said it would be $50,000. That's what $50,000 was put into the budget. We have been told by Rebecca that it's $100,000 and up. She said that during, I think, a budget meeting, if I'm correct, Rob?
I don't recall. I remember discussing it, Commissioner. I don't recall what the numbers were.
Well, they were.
I really don't.
I remember a very large number. And
Well, I guess my question is, why was it approved? Because I wasn't here, so I guess I'm looking for some historical data as to other than one of the commissioners went to a conference and came back and said, I think this is a good idea, but he was one vote. 4 other votes approved it, but it was never, why wasn't it done, I guess is my question.
maybe we can look back and see who voted. Maybe we did all vote. I was on it. I realized I was here during that time. But when you say 50,000 is one thing, but when you start now evaluating what it's going to actually cost, I have no problem going up to finance and say, let me look at the books on, let me look at the line
it's
items
not-
for the Jolly Jamboree, let me
And-
look at the,
And though I'm good at numbers, and those who know when I look at the agenda, I actually read it, that's not my wheelhouse. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a CPA. It's not what I do. And I don't know if there's any CPAs or accountants that sit here on this dais. So it's I don't know if you're trying to intentionally, but you're being disingenuous when you say that we should go to accounting or to finance and look at these numbers, because that's not what we do. I didn't go to school for that.
there's a CPA up there, correct? Is Rebecca a CPA? Yes.
Yeah.
We hired a
Again,
CPA.
that goes back to my point that that's in-house. That's in-house. I'm looking for outside activity. So I want to make sure this is on the record, because this is something that this commission had already approved and funded, and it never happened. And I don't understand. Even if it was, people didn't know what departments to audit, it just fell by the wayside. It was already approved, and yet we're still getting pushback. And I'm with you, $100,000 is a lot of money. But maybe we start at $50,000. Maybe we fund it at $50,000, which was the original amount, and go from there. And the more they audit, if it doesn't cost as much, great. If it costs more, then but the commission voted on this.
Why don't you pick what you want, a program, not a department. Pick a program that you want to audit, and let's get a price from an auditor.
Commissioner Brinson, in I think it's 2019 or 2020, I brought Robert Half to this dais in the old building. They did a complete presentation about an operational audit and what it would look like and what it would cost to this same commission right here. They did a complete presentation, and it wasn't quite $100,000. It was close, but it wasn't quite. But it was actually every department, all of our operational commitments as it pertains to how money comes in and how it moves within the city. They had a complete breakdown on that in their presentation. And when they finished speaking, there was not one question. No one asked them any questions as to how do we implement something like this, or how do we have further discussions on moving forward with this. I will be the first one to tell you that in 2018, when I was elected, the very first order of business was to conduct an audit, to go back 2 years to the 2016 audit that was approved by this commission, but not funded by the commission, to have such an audit done. I sat on the steps of the old City Hall, and I actually had a press conference regarding a operational audit for this city. There was a lot of folks up here very upset with me about that. But again, coming into office, understanding what had happened, I think that we need to be fiscally responsible. I believe that we need to understand the things that we're doing well, and I also think we need to be able to understand the things that we're not doing so well. We can always do better. It is important for us to know as a city where we stand. Just because we have money in our coffer and we can pick up debris and still have money left does not necessarily mean that we are A, fiscally responsible, and B, that we are in great financial shape. It appears that way on the shell, on the outside, but until you drill down and know what's really going on in the city, then you get a better picture of where we are financially in the city and how we're moving money in the city. And I'm not saying that an audit is a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a really good thing, but what I'm saying is that it gives us an idea. We talked about that report card. It lets us know where we are. Are we a AAA rated, bond rated city, or are we a AA bond rated city according to that audit? I spoke to two municipalities, actually one municipality in a county. I spoke to Brevard County, the comptroller. I sat and had a meeting with her and asked her about their operational audit. They do it every single year. Every single year, operational audit. What we're talking about now, what we've been hemming and hawing and kicking the can down the road since 2016, they do it every year. There's another municipality I spoke to that does it like every 2 years. We haven't done it 1 year, not one time. This city was incorporated in 1925. It's 2023, almost 100 years later, not one operational audit. Numbers don't lie, but I just believe that it just gives us an opportunity to show where we really are. And it could reveal something really great, that we are in truly good shape. We have good bond ratings, and we have opportunities in other areas that we can fix and be better at. I think we owe that to the citizens.
All right, Commissioner Brinson, what do you want to do? We need to move on here.
Yeah, I would like a consensus, because I think we've already voted, so I don't think we need a vote, that we look to get an outside operational audit, and we fund it at a starting at $50,000, which was, I think, was the original. Right?
I'm sorry,
The original.
that was, the only time it was in there was 50.
Yeah, and then we will determine which departments will be audited.
Well, I think if you're going to audit, you got to audit all of them, not just one or two. I think you audit all of them. But I think what first thing you do is you send, the city manager sends out requests for bids and see what a bid would be to do it. Then we can vote on whether we're going to do it or not. That's how it works. Send it out for bids, get a bid. That way we know what the money is. Then we don't do one, two. You go to do an audit, you do it on everything. But
I agree with that.
But you send it out, you get a price.
We're in disagreement on what it should be on, what it shouldn't, the cost and everything. I think we, the city, needs to develop a scope of work and agree on that, and then put it out for an RFP and get some results back. That way, we'll know exactly, all five of us, what that audit is going to look like, what it's going to check into, and how much each of the bidders are going to charge us for that. I personally need that information before I can vote yes or no on an audit. I have nothing against audits. They're great. They give you a lot of information and everything, but we just can't send them off saying, here's the city, go run through it and, audit whatever you want to. We got to tell them, this is what we're looking for. These are the departments, these are the issues. We got to specify that for them.
I absolutely agree with that, and the scope of work as well as the statement of work. Attorney Cookson, have you dealt with this before in municipalities that you serve?
I think Commissioner, I think the appropriate thing would be to direct city staff to come up with different options as to what an audit would be, what the cost of the audit would be. And then, as Commissioner Ferstner said, bring that back before the city commission so that they can, so that the city commission can decide what the direction is. Remember, we also, since we're not near the time of doing a budget, if we're going to do it this year, we're going to figure out where that money is going to come from. So again, that would be city staff making recommendations as to where we get that money. So I think what you're asking for is really to direct city staff to come back with a proposal or several proposals of the scope of an audit and then an estimated cost of each of those audits, and then bring it back before the city commission to make a decision on.
Yes, sounds good to me. Sounds like a plan. So if the city staff can do what Attorney Cookson just said, let's do that. But I think we've been kicking around this for 4 years or so, and it's time to stop kicking it around. Either do it or not do it.
Let's get a consensus of the city commission that that's the direction we want to go.
Everybody?
Yes?
Everybody?
Yeah.
Yep.
Good to go.
Yep.
And that was the last thing that I had. Thank you for your attention and patience with me on this.
All right, citizens' comments. Yippee. Hold on, I got a handful here. You're up, Noreen. Thank you. Yeah, time, I haven't said it all night, time, 3 minutes.
That'll be enough. Good evening. My name is Noreen Dwork, and I'm the editor-in-chief of Vox Populi. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Mr. Frank, Melanie, it's lovely to see you. First, I just want to say, job well done on yesterday's MLK celebration. That was absolutely fantastic. I was late to the meeting, so if everybody chimed in on that earlier, my apologies for being late, but it was amazing, and I just wanted to add my voice to that. So, the upcoming election appears to have exposed a loophole in the city's residency requirements, as there seems to be a candidate who has filed to run in District 3 who has a primary residence in Orlando. So as reporter for Vox Populi, I had a couple of questions that I wanted to throw out, and I was hoping to get some answers. Who will determine if this candidate is indeed qualified to run in the election? Does a rental apartment count as residency? In the city charter, it says bona fide resident or bona fide residency. And will the commission amend the charter to close this loophole after the election to make it more clear who is an actual resident of the city of Ocoee? Perhaps Attorney Cookson would like to weigh in?
I will give you my opinion.
Yes, sir.
I believe a resident consists of those that own property and those that rent property, as long as they live here in the city of Ocoee. A bona fide resident is just someone who lives here. The requirement in the charter is that they be a resident at the time of qualifying, which is next week. So I think it may be premature to gauge who is a resident and who is not a resident until that person qualifies, when that residency determination needs to be made.
Okay, so rental property would qualify somebody even if they have a permanent primary residence elsewhere?
No, they need to be a resident. They need to be living in the city of Ocoee. Your primary residence, whether that's a rental property or home ownership, would meet the qualifications of residency.
I understand. Yes, sir?
They will, somebody will be finding out to the county if they're not living in that house, they got homestead exemption on, they're gonna lose it.
Okay, and
They have to live in the apartment.
who would make that determination?
The charter doesn't provide who makes that determination. I think absent that, I think it falls on the city clerk to, as the election official, to look at the city charter to make that residency requirement. But again, I think it's premature to do that now or to speculate on what it is. We'll have to make that determination when qualifying occurs.
Okay. If you'll indulge me, I just had one more question. Is there any losing the I'm not sure of the word, but is there any fallback plan if there is a seat that has no candidate?
No, you're saying nobody qualifies?
Qualifying's coming up, and Commissioner Brinson is not running, and there does not appear to be, as of today, anybody who has filed. So is there a fallback plan if the seat is open?
Don't worry.
Yeah, again, I think it's premature to the charter provides the mechanism for appointing someone if no one qualifies, and we'll just go by what the charter provides for. But again, somewhat premature since we're not there. We'll have to look at that and follow that procedure once we cross that bridge.
Okay, I'll check back with you as we get closer. Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Before you leave, you mentioned that there was a loophole. You mentioned the word loopholes. That means there was something open-ended. What was that? And the reason I'm asking is because if our charter is silent on something, do we usually fall back on state statutes as to how to close that gap? And in this case, could that possibly be a way to close the gap or to fill that loophole?
Asking me?
I guess I'm asking this, the
I-
attorney.
I can
I'm
tell
asking
you-
that question. But you mentioned loopholes. I was just making sure that.
I'm not sure what the loophole is. I think the charter, requires that electors be bona fide residents, and there's no definition in the charter as to what a bona fide resident is.
Does the state statute cover any of that? Do they drill down into, does a person have to be living there for 5 years or 10 years to,
Yeah.
just to clarify the word bona fide?
Right. So there are different counties, different municipalities that have that requirement, that you live in the jurisdiction for a period of time prior to qualifying. Our charter does not require it. It just requires.
Does the state statute pick up where we fall off?
No. So our charter just says you have to be a resident at the time of qualifying. That we wouldn't fall back on a statute or another ordinance or law that required a prior time period. It just the time period is just qualifying. So that's the only time we would look at it.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, we checked with another municipal expert for our story about this, and he had suggested that the commission be the final arbiter of who is a resident of the city. He said that he looked at the city charter, and he was surprised to see that the commission was not the final arbiter of who was the resident. So that's
There are a number of charters of other cities that require that the city commission makes the determination as who a resident is or not. Our charter does not provide for that.
No, that was the loophole. So, thank you very much.
Keith Hadley. Sorry about that.
Hello, my name's Keith Hadley. I live, and excuse the voice, I'm a teacher, so I got 7 periods, is what you get. But I do live in the Greens at Forest Lake, and we've been notified that there's going to be a town-owned community near us, and we do welcome new people into the area. Ocoee is a wonderful city. I've lived here for 7 years. I'm from Tallahassee, but we do have some concerns about the number of homes, the access, and just some of the ways in which some of the individuals will be able to have access to some of the amenities in our community, as well as just the area in general. And I'll let some of my fellow residents speak more on that.
I don't have do you have one of these?
Yeah.
Where?
Kelly Beth.
Huh?
Kelly Beth.
Kelly Beth, you're underneath one there.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Kelly Beck. I am also a resident of Greens at Forest Lake, and I'm a member of our HOA board. I'm the vice president. So our community, or at least the majority of our community, only recently learned of Magnolia Reserve, I believe is the name of it. It's a 48 parcels or how homes are going in adjacent to our community. I believe the name of the property, Isaac Malka property, was how it was originally on the board docs in October. So the current plan for this community, the only entrance or exit is actually inside of our subdivision. So this is a pretty big concern for us because we have amenities that community is not going to have, that our residents are taking the maintenance, the insurance, all of the costs for as it relates to this community. We also already have significant traffic coming in and out of this area. This was something that Commissioner Oliver, according to the notes I was able to find, you addressed that this was going to be a traffic concern for that area, and that there was going to be a study done and an analyzation for the entrance of the subdivision. So one, I'm curious, has anything been done that's going to potentially address this? And secondary, is there anything that can be done to prevent this community from going forward? Because we're looking at, we have a pool, which they're not going to have. We have a playground, which they're not going to have. We have extensive community parking because we are a townhome community that they are not going to have. They only have a handful of community parking spots. And so now we're in a position where we're going to have to pull from our budget likely tens of thousands of dollars to update our fencing, our security, put in place a parking system so that the residents who pay for our amenities can use them without dealing with this adjacent community. Because the reality is they are going to cross the West Orange Trail, drive into our community by the subdivision guidelines that are split up on the Orange County Property Appraiser's website. You can actually see that both sides of the street fall within our subdivision. And after they drive into our community, past our amenities, past several townhouses, then they will turn into our community. So I have spoken with Mike a couple times about this over the last week because I've been trying to get information on this. The initial notification only went out to a handful of houses at the front of the neighborhood, none of which are occupied by board members. Additionally, the notification to the board, the initial one went out on July 15th, which went to the Meritage address, which was our developer. Our board was only voted in at the end of June. And so the actual HOA board never received notification about this, and part of the property that should have received notification was the HOA board. But again, it was sent to Meritage. I understand it was a very tight timeline within that transition. So my question to the commission is, do we have any other options around this, or do we just have to accept that this is our new reality?
What's your subdivision?
Greens at Forest Lake. So it's, if you come down West Road, there's Fountains West Boulevard, there's an apartment complex, there is a school,
In the townhomes?
and then there's the 200-unit townhome community.
15-acre piece?
I would guess something like that.
Backs up to the golf course?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's the new 50 units that are going in. And I do understand that this county doesn't want to allow people to cross the West Orange Trail anymore. But again, this is going to be something where we have 200 residents. And now we're adding a 25% increase just based on the housing ratio, right? A 25% increase in traffic coming through that area. And now we're going to have to pay all these funds to make sure that we're protecting the investment that our residents have made in a community that's only 2 years old.
Hi, you want to say something?
Commissioner Brinson waved me up.
No, yeah, if you don't mind. It sounds like a big problem.
Yeah. Glad you agree, Commissioner Brinson, since we're in your district.
And is there any solutions?
Well, the facts are, there were two properties on the west side of the West Orange Trail. The Malka Isaac 5 acres, and then this piece that the Greens at Forest Lake. Prior to that, the Arbors PUD that developed the apartments in which turned out to be the charter school, the city, in an effort to see that we had developable land on the west side of the West Orange Trail. There is a remnant road in front of the charter school that is under the ownership and maintenance of Orange County. They do not intend to construct that road any further. And they've also, the Orange County Trails has said they will only allow one trail crossing in that distance. The city staff and the commission, and we saw the wisdom to provide the opportunity for development of those two parcels east side of the West Orange Trail. And we had the developer of Arbors build the road all the way past their property, all the way to the West Orange Trail to create that public road access so those properties could develop in the future. It just so happens that the development took place on the larger piece. They were not able to secure the piece, the other 5 acre piece. But we directed the road to be constructed as a public road. Once it crossed the trail, it bordered the north side. The road is a public road. On the south side of the right-of-way is this 5 acre piece. There's not a piece owned by the Greens at Forest Lake. The Greens at Forest Lake is on the north side of this road, and then all of the roads internal are public. Very similar to Bryn Mawr and McCormick Reserve, where we had public roads going through the community. It's what you do in new traditional planning. And so as this appears and maybe was sold by Meritage as this is our community, it's a public road. It's more of a development on public roads, and they have their amenities near the front. So when you cross the railroad track, the new subdivision will be on the right, their subdivision's on the left and straight ahead. So the property went through, the Malka Isaac property went through an annexation, a small-scale land use amendment, rezoning to PUD, and preliminary site plan through the full public hearing process, 300-foot notice, posting a property, legal ad. So with the property's fully entitled, it's accessing a public road mandated by us, at least in front of that 5 acres. But the developer, we were able to work out to make all the roads public. Hence, the HOA does not have to build up reserves to fix and maintain
We
roads.
would happily do that. We'll maintain our roads if it means that we don't have to build up all of the reserves for the additional security measures.
And I submit to you, I've been to Weston Bay, gated, guard. Your clubhouse is heavily fortified. It's not a onerous thing that's going to happen. It is something, but these amenities as well. And again, I don't want to seem like I'm adversary. I'm just stating the facts. The facts is the amenities for this development are up front along the trail, accessed by a public road. It just so happens on the south side of the road, there's going to be another development. It does physically appear, but if you look at the property, it's bound by the 429. It does appear like it is a one community. But it is a community. It's a
more like a
community of
neighborhood.
residents that have public roads, and everybody can walk and bike and enjoy the West Orange Trail, and that's what it was intended to be. So that's the facts. Not getting into, I can't provide evidence that it's going to cost $30,000 or what to upgrade, but I can just point out.
So what would you have to do? Make it a private community? Then you'd have to gate it?
They would have to gate it past the entrance to this parcel, so that that parcel has the ability to develop along a public road, and then have to go through a process, because we have it platted as public roads, and they would have to.
But there's no way for us to do that in front of where Meritage installed all the amenities.
Yes, they would be gating it behind the amenities.
Yeah, so you,
Which makes so much sense. So, and I completely understand what he's saying, that this is a separate community, but the reality is, when you cross the trail, within 10, 15 feet, you see Greens at Forest Lake, and you're gonna go past the mailboxes, the amenities, several of the units before you enter this neighborhood. And there's a difference between people who are looking at maps and the reality of living in that neighborhood for what these residents are going to experience.
right,
And
this
so-
is a heavy lift, right?
Oh, I completely understand. I
It's-
promise
yeah.
if I had understood the implications of what this was prior to, or if as a board member I had received notification that this was happening, and again, I understand, Mike and I have talked extensively about this. I do fully understand that the notice went to Meritage and Meritage did not send it on. So the board never received our notification. But this is the first time we've known about what is happening and had an opportunity to come to the city as residents. We have a number of residents that are here tonight. Thank you guys for coming. Trying to see if there's any alternative, because otherwise we're looking at significant expenses in something, in a community that we reasonably can't gate, right? All of our stuff is behind the past where we would be allowed to gate as it stands right now, we can't.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those situations where it's like a one-off that only happens 1 in a million times. But I don't know if there's any recourse that we have as a municipality, and I don't know if there's a way for another road to be built for only access your part of that neighborhood, so then you can become a gated community, or we're stuck. I don't know if there's anything that can be
Commissioner, we
done.
provided, there is a remnant, that remnant road that comes off of West Road. On the property appraiser's map, it also says it's called West Road, that goes to the charter school. At the charter school, it diminishes and turns to dirt to the West Orange Trail. The Greens at Forest Lake property physically owned a spike strip around the 5 acres. It was about 20 foot. We required, as part of the plan, to them to dedicate that land to the city as an emergency access in case all else fails. At least you have a physical way you could get there. But with the hopes, and what's going to be facilitated with this new subdivision, which will have public roads, they are deeding, and at the south end, we will have a 50-foot right-of-way that will end at the West Orange Trail. They were prohibited to get a trail crossing, and Orange County does not want that road to extend. But at such time as things change, on the east side of the trail, we will have a public road, and within 100 feet, there will be edge of pavement from another public road, that if it's ever foreseeable to connect them, that connection could be made, and there will be 2 ways in and out. We've done as much as we could
Can't they build a bridge over the trail? There's bridges crossing the trail all over the place.
I just have a
Just saying.
quick question.
So what you have to do is write trespass. Trespass everybody.
Sorry,
Oh,
I
we
just
already
have,
deal with the kids from the apartment smoking weed in the bathroom on a regular basis.
I do have just a question, just a quick question. So it sounds like there's just only one egress through your property, so you have these other properties butted up against there, and there's only one way in, one way out.
Correct.
Well, there's, understand, it's public roads. Their lots are developed as fee simple townhomes, and they have amenities, and they have common open space. It's just like a neighborhood along the lake that has roads, public roads you go through. They have amenities and common open space that is not dedicated to the public. Those, their HOA is responsible for maintenance. It is not the road.
So again, only one way in, one way out.
There's perception,
Right.
yes, and then there's
Okay.
reality.
So-
And the perception is you look like you're going into a private development, but reality is you're going, it's just like a lot of.
The reality is that the road that I take to go to my home in this new subdevelopment is the same road that I take going out. Is that right?
Yes, there's
Okay,
one way
that's
in
the
to go
reality.
into Fountains.
The road going in is the same road going out.
Yes.
So regardless of how we describe it, it's still the same road going in and going out. And again, as I stated before, we have so much traffic, we have so many traffic issues right there as they're coming in and out on the West Road as it is, and we're still developing back there, which again, to me, we always talk about responsible development, and to me, that's not responsible when you have residents that bought their homes or they're renting their homes, whatever they're doing in their current homes, and then we put something behind it so folks can go through there. That's just, without any plans or other options to have other ways in and out. Because what it's going to do is, again, it's going to continue to compound our traffic problems at that intersection, at that light, going on the 429. So the more we build there, more problems we're going to have there.
Yeah. Have you spoken with the other community? Is there other community
Community's still
HOA?
under,
We
or-
haven't even broken ground yet. It's a giant field full of trash.
Yeah, it's under final site review.
Yeah, and I guess my question is it going to be, do we know if they will have an HOA?
Yes, they will have, they have some common area maintenance that they will have.
So maybe y'all can do the old partner collaboration deal.
I think
Why
the
you
problem
smiling?
is, and it's similar to what we experience in our own community now, we have a lot of renters that don't, it's not the same as homeowners, right? And that's something that we deal with renters, is making sure that they do know what are the responsibilities and the guidelines that all homeowners agreed when they purchased in the community.
Yeah.
I completely agree that if this goes forward, if we have no other recourse, the only option in front of us is going to be to do what we can do to make sure that we are protecting the investment of our residents, to make sure that we have the proper insurances in place because of this, and to work with the adjacent HOA. But the reality is they're not going to have any of the amenities that we have other than open green space. And the perception is going to be that, hey, yes, looks like a subdivision of Greens of Forest Lake because I'm coming in and then I'm going into my separate community.
It's a community pool.
Yeah, exactly. And we already have the kids from Arbors jumping the fence, which is why we're looking at putting in a higher fence, because I'm kind of impressed. They jumped that fence pretty
It is
easily.
a nice, it was nice. I went in there at Christmas time with the thing. That is really,
It's a cute little area. We like it,
It
and we
is.
don't mind when, I'll be honest, like a kid jumps a fence, okay, whatever. It's a kid being a kid. They're not damaging anything until they start damaging things. And when they're using drugs on the playground, whenever residents are messaging us because they tried to take their 2-year-old to the swings and there's teenagers out there smoking pot, that's a problem. And so now we're gonna, the problem that's already compounded from the apartment complex, when it's very clear that these are separate, is just going to get so much worse whenever there is a perceived joining of two communities.
I don't know how we do that unless it was a private, community. I mean, that's the only way I know how you do that. Even the private communities have a problem with them coming in and using.
I mean, is there no way to approach Orange County again and make the developer have to, like I said, do a bridge over the trailway? They do them all the time, and extend that smaller west road so that they come in and out through that intersection instead of through Desert Candle. That way, the trail crossing is preserved, which would make Orange County Trails happy, and it provides easier access for that community. It causes less confusion overall for both communities, and all it is a bigger cost to the developer, which I frankly don't care about. So,
What I also will recommend, because we're easy to get to because we're right here. But Orange County, you also have a commissioner down there.
believe me, I have a list of calls. I'm a project manager for work, so.
Okay, so you're not scared of the telephone, so you're not scared of being hung up on it, or no. So you can overcome objections, I'm sure you can. So Christine Moore, I think, is the county commissioner. If you've not talked with her,
Get
call
hold of
her.
Christine and see if we can get Orange County for that West Road piece.
Yeah, because we're not the only commission that serves you.
Okay.
Orange County, and a lot of people forget out there in the public, Orange County is also your commissioners, and we have a lot of roads that's running through our city that belong to Orange County. So in this case, maybe they can help. Like I said, that's a heavy lift only because your community is already in place, and it has the amenities up front. Other communities are coming in, but they're turning into their community after they pass your amenities. That's you know.
It's going to be a lot of confusion.
I can't pick it up. I wish I could.
I
and move it,
understand.
so.
It's going to be a pain. So I just want one clarification. You said the final site plan hasn't been approved yet. It's under review still. So is there any room for the city to vote against this?
The property received zoning by ordinance for the townhomes and the units. The item that has to come before this commission on a consent will be the final site plan, which shows that the public roads, that stormwater has a state permit, and that it meets the land development code with regards to constructability of the improvements that the city would be accepting upon the platting of the project. But the entitlements for the number of units is already done by ordinance, and that is set.
But you just said like the streets and everything, it still has to go in front of the city again. So why can't the city say no?
The city would be saying, no, we don't agree that you've just engineered the plans to the standards of the land development code. That it's not open for number of lots and type of units. That is already set by an ordinance under the plan unit development. It would be taking. It would be just like if we took a house for a road project, we would have to do a taking and settle it in court.
Anything else from Greens at Forest Lake people that I'm not thinking of? Because I'm racking my brain.
Well, you know, if there's any consolation to you, this fight you're fighting, I've fought it many times right up here, and I had to swallow the pill of understanding that when you mention the word plats and rights, it is almost impossible to change that as voting as a commission without going into some type of litigation.
So my only other question is, if we had shown up in July when we didn't receive the notifications, is that when we would have been able to do something?
Yes, at the public hearing.
Well, you
Yes.
might have got the votes. You know, who knows what the vote would have been.
And so because the board never received notification, only the front residents and Meritage did, we lost that opportunity. I'm going to have to answer to the residents, so I want to make sure I'm able to communicate this correctly.
300-foot notices went to every property owner, every publicly noticed property owner, sign on the property, and advertisement in the West Orange Time. Depending on how quick a subdivision sells out, if this subdivision took 5 years and it just happened to sell out really quick, but all of the noticing requirements were done.
300 feet only covers part of one road in the community, and none of the board members lived on that road. We all live in the back of the neighborhood, so that's why we didn't receive notice. I understand this is not a criticism of Mike, I understood he followed the guidelines as he had them and for the information he had at the time, but the reality is that the board was not notified. So we didn't have an opportunity to come forward and speak on this.
All right, well.
But
Thank you for your time.
The board doesn't have an address, so like right now, where's the address of the common ownership? It's going to either be Century Management or it's still going to be, so we can only know where the tax bill goes. That's where the address that we know, and that's where we send the
I can
notices.
give you our property I'll email your property management company, Mike, so that for any future stuff, that's available. Because that'll be better than Meritage. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you listening, and I will get a hold of Christine.
Thank you. Gary Tolley, is there somebody else with you? No. He left? Okay. 3 minutes, I'm sorry, we overdid that one.
If I can last 3 minutes, it's been a long night. My name is Gary. I am the community relations advocate for Libby's Legacy Breast Cancer Foundation. And I'd like to introduce you to Libby's and just tell you the great work that they're doing. Now, Libby's helps the underserved of the community, obviously with breast cancer mammograms and those services that are related to that, even post the diagnostics. Once these folks are diagnosed with whatever it is, now Libby's walks them through their journey. So what I do as a community relations advocate is I meet with the business community and ask them if they'd like to help us out in our endeavor, because this is a fundraising program. We are the professional solicitor for Libby's Legacy Breast Cancer Foundation. And we do that by collecting shoes and clothes, and we turn those products into dollars. And last year during the pandemic, we were able to write Libby's Legacy when they were at their worst. We were able to write them a $50,000 check based on the generosity of folks who donate clothes and shoes they're just not going to wear anymore. So we had an issue that came up on 2266 Ocoee Popka Road, where we had one of our donation bins. Now, we were unaware that there was nothing telling us that there was a permitting process. So I came to City Hall, I talked to staff, and apparently the city does not have a permitting process for these charitable donation bins. And I know that it's probably not something that we talked about earlier, where when I talked with your staff, there was a concern about trash issues. So I sent an image of what it would look like behind the Waffle House. We got a signature from the manager of Waffle House that they wanted to participate. Then I found out that, in fact, there is no permitting process, but yet we were not allowed to have our donation bin. So with that being said, I'd like to see if we couldn't work, because I know that they're in this space.
Can you pass that around, the picture of that?
Yeah, it's on an email that I sent earlier.
We did get an email from you, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I will tell you that years ago, we had all those bins, not with this.
we haven't been in town,
I
so
know
yeah.
somebody else was, and it ended up being voted out.
Well, and I appreciate you saying
I
that.
know what people's, but you can go to places and look at the bins and.
You have an order?
and
You actually said something that really is in our wheelhouse. Those folks, there are blue bins that came to town, and what they did was, unannounced, just drop these bins on people's property. What I do as a community relations advocate is I actually sit down with the folks, we go over our program, we discuss how important it is and how beneficial it is, and that's a differentiator. So in order to work in this city, what we'd like to do is work with staff, because we're not those folks that you're talking about. We service it twice a week, and this lady at the Waffle House who signed this said, when I have a bag of clothes outside, I'm going to call you. And yes, ma'am, that's the way we operate. So I know this 3 minutes went pretty quick.
Yeah.
So, and I also know it's been a long night, but I'd like to see if we couldn't work with staff for the benefit of all, and keeping this in the, best interest of the city, best interest in the charity.
All right, let's get a voice from commissioners real quick.
I was going to state the current policy that this commission adopted was that these things can be located just as a dumpster is, behind an enclosure with a gate. Not facing a road, yes. So it's like a dumpster enclosure, yes.
And as you notice, I'm an advocate of not doing it. I'll be quite right up front.
Okay.
I don't like them. I've never liked them. I drove through Hardee's the other day, and there's one just sitting on the corner there. And what you do is when you open the door to one, you open the door to all. And the ordinance says, no. The ordinance says it must be behind such as we have dumpsters, and that's not gonna help you because they're gonna be fenced, they're gonna be gated.
Oh, no, we understand, yeah.
If the ordinance says no, I have a problem because once you open the door, you then allow them all over. And if you look around the county, you see them dumped all over. Am I wrong?
No, but unlike, yeah, good.
One day I was, and then I had one, not in the city,
Mhm.
people were going through them in front of one of these home improvement stores.
Mhm.
Were going through the stuff that was sitting there. To me, I'm not happy with them, so.
And if you don't mind me saying, I can certainly understand that, but if I can bring it back to the fact that we get permission, the ones that you see that are not serviced but twice a month, this is the big difference between us, and we're registered as, with the state, we have $1 million of insurance, we go in and talk to the folks who are responsible for their property. So when Ms. Magnum signed this, she knew that we promised her in writing our service conditions twice a week and when called upon. And again, I think when we talk about a charity thing, a charity endeavor, it's like asking the Girl Scouts or the Boy Scouts or any other charity, the bell ringers, we're doing something charitable, but you got to be behind the dumpster in a contained area. That's when we get into issues that pertain to First Amendment, and I think you all have a copy of this as well. And I understand that some cities don't care about what past, jurisdictions have said, but there is a precedent on how you treat a silent solicitor is how they describe it. But what I'd like to do, again, my goal here tonight is to see if we can't work with the staff to establish, because we've written code for Lake Wales. We work hand in hand with Orlando, St. Cloud, and we understand these donation bins, they could be a blight when not serviced.
All right.
We service.
I know. All right. Anybody else up here have any voice? If not, we need to vote. Consensus or a vote? Which one should we do?
It has to be changing the ordinance.
Huh?
It would have to be a change in the ordinance.
I know, the ordinance
And
says
I'm-
we can't do it.
and I'm not-
We'd have to agree to change the ordinance. Anybody up here want to do that? If you do,
Well,
make a motion, yea or nay.
I would not agree to just changing the ordinance tonight, or at least
No.
voting on that. There's something, I would need more information about the current ordinance and what would a new ordinance look like if we went in this direction. And I don't have enough information tonight to even address anything like that right now.
And again, we've written for Lake Wales, so we know what we can do to protect your interest, but yet still be
It still puts
charitable.
them out in the public. It still puts them out. That's what we're saying. And
Right.
Here's the deal. It's our ordinance that had to be changed. I'm asking the commission if they want to change the ordinance. If they want to change the ordinance, then it's got to go back to the city staff and have them bring it back to us. Nobody said do that. So now, do you want to make a motion to do that? No. So I know three of us no. So I don't think we're going to be able to do that right now.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll just leave this with
All right.
the city clerk.
Thank you, sir.
And I do appreciate your time and, okay.
I'm sorry about that, but yeah,
All right.
thanks.
Thanks.
All right. Then I got one more. Mr. Moyer.
Good evening. My name's Jim Moyer. I live in Arden Park. I have two quick stories about diversity. They both involve two of the 5 boroughs in New York City, based on my research. Queens, New York, if it were a city, would be challenging Houston for the 4th most populous city in the United States. It also, according to one research, has people from 200 different countries, and there's only officially 195 countries in the world. It's definitely the most linguistically diverse area in the whole world. There are languages in Queens that are actually going extinct. But I don't know, I'm from Philadelphia. I hear more bad things about my hometown of Philadelphia than I do about Queens, New York. So that, to me, is evidence that people can get along. In fact, the one article I saw, it says, if you want to travel the whole world, get an apartment in Queens and just walk around a lot. Okay, second story is about neighbor in Brooklyn. Okay, in 1975, when I happened to be in the Marine Corps, a 17-year-old girl immigrated from Kingston, New York. She went to Brooklyn. 3 months later, she joined the military. Now, she went through boot camp like everybody, and she must have made a lot of right moves and taken advantage of her opportunities. She went into cybersecurity, and then when the opportunity came about, she became an officer. And as of very recently, Major General Mailer is the highest ranking female, active duty female in the United States Marine Corps. She's also the highest ranking Jamaican, highest ranking African American, and I'm not positive, but I think she's the highest ranking ever immigrant also. 2 of the other 12 female generals in the Marine Corps did not disclose in my research where they had been born. But she's a tribute to this country, in my view, because I've personally known several people that were not yet citizens of the United States who joined the military and made good in our country. So thank you for your time, and God bless all of y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Moyer. Oh, let's see, that's it, I think. That's it. All right, now, let's see what else. Oops. Commissioner Oliver.
There's someone in the back from IT. I need your help. In the interest of time, I will play this video and one statement, and I'll be done for tonight.
Please welcome tonight's presentation of What I Want to Do
When I Grow Up.
When I grow up.
I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. I don't want to cry when paying the bills.
When I grow up.
I don't want to be turned down for a business loan. I don't want to borrow a lot for an education.
And then not know what to do with it.
When I grow up, I don't want to be paid less. Told I'm underqualified or overqualified.
When I grow up.
When I grow up, I want to know how to save for my future. Find a job I like and start my own business. When I grow up, I want to know how to provide for my family.
And invest in my community and make a difference.
When I grow up, when I grow up,
when I grow up,
when I grow up, I just want things to be different.
At Junior Achievement, we promote economic empowerment through education, but we can't do it alone.
Thank you. That video, as I went to an event and spoke with a 16-year-old young lady, and we were talking about the future of not only our city in Ocoee, but the future of our county and our state and our nation. And she was very vocal about her generation. She's Generation Z, and talked about what she expects her future to look like as it pertains to the decisions that we make from leadership. And she was very vocal about it, and she pointed me to that video. And it's so apropos because, again, these are the things that we should be thinking about. When we make decisions on behalf of our citizens, we also need to look at this generation as well. Now, that generation that you just saw was actually Generation Alpha. So we talked about X, Y, and Z. She was part of Z, and that's Generation Alpha. These are the kids that's actually going to be sitting up here doing the things that we're doing, making the tough decisions. We have to be concerned about legacy, the legacy that we leave for those kids. And finally, the only thing I have, I'll leave you with this. Since we just celebrated Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday and a day of community service, I will take a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King. He once said, "Commit yourself to the noble struggles for equal rights. You will make a greater person of yourself, a greater nation of your country, and a finer world to live in." That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner First.
First, I'd like to thank everybody about the Martin Luther King Jr. parade and activities yesterday. It really went off very well. Thank you for all of you for coming out and all of you that participated in it and all the staff and volunteers that made the event work. Second of all, Public Safety Academy is going to be held January 29th through March 29th. Contact the police department if you're interested, and anyone in the city that would like to find out more about the operations of the Ocoee Police Department, or if you plan on volunteering for the police department in the future, contact them and see what you have to do to sign up for the Public Safety Academy. And lastly, I'd like to wish the mayor a happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. I just lost my dinner.
There's always tomorrow night.
Yeah. If I can make it. That's it?
That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Wilson.
Okay, well, I'm going to bring up a subject that maybe some don't want to hear. But, well, first of all, I'm going to tell you this. Anyone gets a chance to go look at the cemetery, it is looking so much better. But there's an issue, and I tend to say there's kind of the elephant in the room. Commissioner Oliver, you've done 2 videos in this room that I really, as we've already discussed the first one, which I was not happy with, but you've done a second one that I understand from Vox Populi that was quoted as to saying you were in this room asking for donations for your upcoming election. First of all, I have a real problem when this building is used for our personal use. This room is used right here, taped. I've been told, I'm not the only one that says, oh, that really didn't. Sorry, there's some noise. I'm on. I'm not on. I'm not, oh, I am now. That I think we should have, first of all, some control over what this room is used for. That's personal use. Sitting in front of the emblem, taping is a problem to me. Number one. Number two is this video that you did, the second one that was spoke of in Vox Populi. I'd like to see it. I've asked, I have not, I can't say that, I'd like to know what was done in this building. And I'm asking the attorney, is that a public record in that it was done in this building? Do we have access to see this? Scott?
That's a good question. I don't know. I have to, I'll have to research that. I don't know.
Because again, I'm reading about it in Vox Populi. Did I say it correctly? Yeah. Thank you. And, but then you see the picture right here in front of the emblem. But I guess I'd like to see it. And second of all, I'd like us as a commission to determine what this room can be used for. I don't know if anyone knew that it was being used on both times. And I think that someone should know. I think we should be authorizing the use of this space. And yes,
I would like to address that if
Mr. Oliver.
you'd like me to. I'm sorry.
No, I'm directing that, I guess, at you, because I'm rather taken back, and I think I've already told you how taken back I am from the first video you saw, that you commented about myself, citizens, which I, again, will say for about the 50th time, I did not like it.
Well, I can address that briefly, and thank you again for your comments. That particular video, I will address that. That particular video was actually on my page, embedded in my page. It was actually private. And we recently found out that someone hacked my page and made that public. And when I found out that it was actually public, I went back in and got rid of that video. But that video was never meant to be publicized. It's never been on Facebook. It's never been sent to anyone at all except for Vox Populi. I sent it to her. And that video was meant for a review of an attorney before that video went out. Guess what? It never went out. It never got reviewed. We found out that that was actually not proper. But other than that, we found that someone went on my page and actually changed that from a private video to public. And that's how one or two people must have got the video and sent it out. But it was never meant to be public at all. So therefore, there's no violations. It was never meant, that was never egregious, never meant to be put out there in the public until it was reviewed by legal counsel. It never got that far because someone hacked that page.
How can it be private when you put it out on a Facebook?
It was never put. It was never put on
I can tell
Facebook.
you it was out there because I had a lot of people call me about
It was never put on Facebook by myself at all.
All right, when
And you will never, and you won't find that video out there because it has been
might be,
put as private
somebody else
and deleted.
somebody copied it, I know.
Well, let me just say this.
No, I know, but
I'll just say this.
Hold on just a second.
You're right.
I want her to finish.
Okay, I understand. I just want to
Let
say you're
her
right.
talk. So let her
And
I'm reading, what I'm reading in this article is there was this video, but I think the one thing I'm going to look at today is what are we as a commission allowing to happen in this building? These videos were done, usually if I'm going to use these chambers for a purpose, I ask the commission to use the chamber when I'm going to have a program. I've asked the chamber prior to. Now, what's going to be our policy, first of all? I guess I want to get that straightened out. What's our policy on using the chamber?
All right.
Do we get to walk in and just use it whenever we please? Then does that mean the citizens have the same right to walk in and use this as they please for a video? I mean, again, what are we going to determine? Is the use of this building? I'm going to start right there.
All right, Commissioner Brinson.
Well, no, I want to know, I want to straighten out, what is going to be the limits? How are we going to determine the future use of this room?
Well, I would like for the city manager to come up with that things and let us look at them to sit up here. I can personally tell you that I know the rules, and I don't know how you not know what the ethics charges and rules are. Because every year now, not like they used to be, every year you get to go and listen to what the things are. Just like about asking for certain things, you cannot do it. There's a purpose for doing that.
Well, I'd like plain,
So we gotta have him say, none of us come in here and use it that's for personal business.
personal use.
And sending out things and using it. I don't see how we get to do that. I think it ought to be locked up until we have functions in here. But city manager can come up with suggestions and we can vote on them.
And it's not locked up during the day. It's not.
It's got a sign that says not to be. It's got a sign out there.
It can be, right?
It can be what?
Can be locked up.
I think there was an issue with it locking up. I think it had something to do with some of the timers for the other doors. So we're actually looking into that, but we'll.
We need a plan as to the use
So
of this building.
if you want to come up, not just for the commission, but for the general use of this room, we can come up with.
Or the
some
building.
type- Yes. Yeah. And at that point, we can figure out if it's an easy way to lock the door. We have to have the whole building reprogrammed to lock at a certain time. There were some issues with just having this door locked. So we're going to look into that.
All right.
Thank you.
Give us something about how to work on that. That's it?
That's it, I guess.
Okay, he's gonna get us the information. Commissioner Branson?
Welcome to 2023. We are officially here.
Mellon? Set the clock for the man.
Welcome to 2020. No, I'm just kidding. First of all, last year was very, very, very eventful for everyone involved. The last couple of years, obviously COVID, and we had a lot of stuff going on in the community. City Hall, obviously for those who was able to see the State of Ocoee's video, it was very nicely done, very well put together. It showcases a lot of things that was happening in the city right now. And I think that's important for us to showcase that, not just this evening, but as we move forward throughout the rest of this year, because there's a lot more to come. And one of the things that I've said here from my position is I've really implored, I've begged, I've asked, I've begged, I've asked, I've implored to be patient. Right? Patience is important when you're dealing with a municipality that's growing. And so now that we also have growth on the 429 and the Turnpike, that makes it even more so, because if an accident happens on the 429, all of our feeder roads and arteries get clogged up. So you have to exhibit patience and don't do things that are against the law simply because you're trying to get somewhere quicker than the person in front of you. I say these things because it happens to me almost every morning. I travel during the hours of darkness in the mornings, and it seems as if the people who are traveling the same roads don't seem to get it, even if it's raining outside. So patience is a virtue. Normally I talk about, infrastructure and all that, but what I'm going to talk about is also patience for the members of this commission. We have to exhibit patience. Patience is so very important because it's, there's an exercise for those who understand communication. It is the floor. It's called the floor. I'm going to give you the floor. It's a little piece of paper I'm giving you. On that piece of paper, it's called the floor, and I hand it to you. And as long as you have the floor, you can talk. But as soon as you turn the floor over to me, then you must not talk. You must let me talk, and then I can paraphrase what you said and vice versa. That requires patience because we all, and I'm guilty of it myself, when we hear some people talking, we want to jump in and immediately start responding before they finish their thought. We have to exhibit patience. And one of the things I've said this, and I've many a times, is the only time this commission can come together and speak about issues is in this forum. That's it. That's it when we're in a public forum. Now there's a couple other sidebars that we can have for legal purposes, but for the most part, this is the only place where we can discuss issues as a body. And so this is when we must exhibit a lot of patience. We may not want to hear what people are saying, or our fellow commission members are saying. We may disagree with them. We may wholeheartedly agree with them. Now, sometimes I want to give our commissioners and the mayors a sitting ovation, but I have to have patience and then wait my turn to give them that ovation because I think it shows a level of respect that I think all of us deserve and all of us expect. But to get it, you must give it. And so I would ask that we remind ourselves, just as we ask the community to be patient in their driving and their going to and fro, that we exhibit those same qualities and that characteristic, which is sometimes it can be an uncommon characteristic that we exhibit. And that's all I have. Thank you.
That it? All right. I'm going to read the announcements here real quick. Pursuant to Florida election laws, Chapter 100, Section 100-021 and Ocoee Code of Ordinances, Section 5-13, notice is hereby given by the City of Ocoee, Florida, that an election will be held on Tuesday, March the 14th, 2023. In the City of Ocoee, for the purpose of electing the mayor and 2 city commissioners for 4-year terms, 1 commissioner from District 1 and 1 commissioner from District 3. Candidates for these offices must qualify by filing qualifying papers and fees with the city clerk during regular hours, office hours, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., beginning at noon on January 20th and ending at noon January 27th at the Ocoee City Hall, 1 North Bluford Avenue. The fee for qualifying for the office of mayor is $145 and for commissioners is $90. All right, let's get to this other stuff here. I want to see, make sure the city posts on our TV channel where the voting places are, where the citizens will know where they're, like District 3, District 4, put it on our TV, post it on Facebook, where people will know where they're going to vote. That way we won't have them coming up here and they're supposed to be down there or somewhere else. So let's please do that. Huh? Oh, I know. The other thing is about that, making that video and doing that stuff. It gets seen. You can't say, if somebody's standing there watching you or somebody sees you on something, I didn't do that. You did do it because it was on Facebook, and I watched it because somebody sent it to me. And the thing I watched about it was, for 40 years, I haven't done anything. I've just sat up here for 40 years because he was going to take this seat and make it his. But you know how that works. I guess if you watched our city yearly thing tonight, you've seen the things that's been done. Go back and look in the last 8 years, what we've done in this city. So you can go around telling people we hadn't done anything, but folks, people know we've done stuff. This city, and it all entails people sitting up here too. Not just one person. We all work to do things and make things happen in this city. So one person's not the only person that's going to get blamed for nothing being done. But let me tell you something. If you go around this city and watch what's happened in the last 7 or 8 years, you can't tell me something hadn't happened. Something has happened. Get a load of how many billions of dollars, $2.3 or $2.4 billion of economic development has happened in this city in the last 2 or 3 years. Is economic development. And so you can sit up and say that, but it seems to be in politicking time, everybody has to make up things to say. But when you put it out on something, people see it, then they know you've done it. So you can't go back and say, well, I didn't do that, because you did do it. And I have always wondered why in politics, it always has to be somebody say something about something to somebody that they're not doing this or they didn't do that. But the citizens I've talked to, they think we've done a great job in our city. I went around and did a little thing on some citizens I've seen at restaurants and stuff about what they thought about the comments made at a commission meeting about our cities said it's bad or it's not doing good. They said that's not what they understand it to be. They said that this city is doing a good thing and been doing a good thing, just like yesterday with the Martin Luther King deal. That was excellent. And Darlene Jones, and I don't always agree, but she did it one of the better ones I've heard since we had the Martin Luther King deal. She did an excellent job. But I can tell you that I know in my heart, in my life, what I've done. I haven't sit and done nothing, because I know I ride around this town all the time, and I talk to citizens, and they know when you're telling them something that's not true. And a lot of them make comments about this comments made. It has been spread. The ethics is what we all should live by. If you want to do certain things up here, like you were talking about, Commissioner Princeton, ethics is a thing where tell the truth. I mean, do the truth. And that's the way it's got to be. And there's, like I said, the citizens know. You're going to find out. They know what goes on. This city is way ahead of a lot of people, way ahead of a lot of other cities. If you look back we're 50,000 people. I don't know 5 years ago we were 40, maybe not even 40. I don't even know if we were 40. And it is a struggle to get the roads. And one of the things a lot of people don't understand, Popka's building on the north of us, and if you come, they all come right down to McCormick Road out of Apopka. All them houses are going in up there. All the people from Apopka around the hospital, everywhere else is coming right through Ocoee on Ocoee Apopka Road. And Clark Road is the same way. When we made that cut through on Clark Road, here they come. So they're going to cut through and come through our city. So we're not ever going to get away without the traffic. And when we open that road to make it 4-lane, they're going to be more people. So we all got to understand that things happen, but the growth is something. I am proud of what's happened in downtown with what our city designed and put into new sidewalks, new streets, new lights, and people. And we have one of the better recreation departments you've seen that tonight, and all the activities they keep adding for the youth and seniors. Pickleball is one of the biggest things going around, And I think that's what happens in our city. And we're putting in a skateboard after I've heard that for 30 years about putting in a skateboard, and we're finally getting the skateboard place. So I just, when you make statements in its own video, it's said. So I'll tell you, I've worked to keep this seat, and I'm gonna be working to keep it more. But I just don't understand why we don't know what the ethic rules are when they're put out and told you. They make us go every year. Now, the Florida legislators, they don't go every year. We do, but they don't. So I think the commissioners, we can look at the things you've brought up, both of you. And I think if Rob brings it back and we look at it and it's things we need to do, we need to do that. So, and I'm reason I'm talking a little more than I usually do because now I don't get to go out to eat dinner with my wife. It's too late. They close. So I'm gonna go home and eat eggs. So I really think the city is in a perfect place moving towards the future. And I want everybody to understand that. I don't want to hear this things. And I want people to come look at the things we do, just like the Music Fest. It's a program that brings in sometimes 10,000 people on a weekend that come here and see our city. But we got a couple of people that just wants to pump it and say things. One of them's running. That it's something wrong there. But ain't nothing wrong because go to the finance department and pull the records. Pull the records and look. It works the way it's supposed to. But I hope everybody had a good new year. We got a great year coming with us. And I think, Rob, I'm going to say this real quick. I talked to you about it. We passed the budget in October for the paving to start and for the sidewalks to start.
Yeah, I can share a memo with you all as to what that is. You're going to see the sidewalks start by the end of the month, January.
Lakeview Villages.
Yeah. So
probably needs to start with.
So we actually have a list of all the sidewalk repairs too, and we're starting a second list. So if I share that with you all and you see sidewalk repairs, you don't see them on the list, let us know. We'll put them. We're starting a second list now. The paving, it's out there. So we're thinking after 4 weeks or so of advertising, the prices from last year we think were too high. We advertised. We're pretty sure we're going to see the paving start in March. We have the list. It was approved during the budget of all the roads and the subdivisions we're doing. So I do have that if you're interested, if anyone's asking you questions about that.
And one more thing about the election. When they come to that office, Melanie, they need to know what the rules are about putting signs places. There is rules that states where you can put a sign. You have to call the owners, not just go stick one up somewhere on a corner and say, okay, I got it. Because I call all the people that when I put them up for the things, I go to their house or I call the owner of the land. There's a rule there that says about where you can do. So.
And when we do qualifying, we have them sign.
Yeah.
They've received all those rules.
Yeah, they just need to have them double read it, underline it, because some of them don't do it. All right. Everybody have a great evening. Thank you.